And welcome back again to another episode of your favorite true crime and criminal culture podcast, Thought Riot.
Why do you still say it like you don't know?
What do you mean?
That's the official.
I try and change it up every time. Do you guys want to hear the same thing over and over and over? Well, here you go. Welcome to Thought Riot Podcast, your favorite true crime and criminal culture podcast.
Yes.
Bam.
Say the same thing every time.
My name is Brendan.
And I am Malia.
And
we are your hosts.
Yes, that. And tonight we are actually doing things a little bit different. We are speeding everything up because we are super behind on everything. And we had some personal things come up, and we just didn't want to skip a week. You know, I think we've done this before where we were focused on like viewer topics and things like that.
Yep.
So this week, what we are doing is we are covering some of the most important cases out right now. Your Delphi, Idaho4, Ruby Franke, just all the main cases that everyone wants to hear about. With all the updates, it's been one of the craziest weeks of updates and cases, court hearings, and we're going to cover them all in a reduced time frame. So it'll probably be roughly about like 10 to 20 minutes per case file that we cover. But it should still be a great show. And at Thought Riot Podcast, we commit to being honest, intelligent, unscripted, and unscripted, and bringing interesting conversation and information we get and following it to wherever it leads, holding nothing back and sharing brutal honesty the entire time. We censor nothing.
And talk about everything.
Yeah, clap. Round of applause.
The unscripted part is very important.
Yeah, it is very important in the true crime community. I still think people are having a hard time grasping that, where, you know, I suggest to all of you, if you're watching us and you watch a whole bunch of other creators, if they're not live, check and see if they're scripted. They're going to be cutting everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. We love all those same creators.
Yep.
But the difference is we are completely unscripted. We are more that Joe Rogan style topics where we're going to have the topic and we're going to dig into it and not cut anything out. So if we mess up, if we say things wrong, if we pronounce names wrong, if we do whatever wrong, you're going to see it with us. So
you will.
Yes, and it's a good time doing it. So, we didn't want to skip this, though. This week's True Crime Spotlight Content Creator, we are going with, drumroll, Crime Sleuthin'.
That was probably such a long promo.
It probably was. But
Sorry.
Crime Sleuthin'.
Woo!
And yeah, yay, and input clapping. I've been doing that. It makes it sound more official.
Very official.
It does. It does. Along with those hundreds of people right out there in the studio watching us. But so we're going to be talking about one of Crime Sleuthin's videos that they just did recently with Kara Kernodle and Jules of All Trades. And it was a really great live. And I just couldn't think of... We planned on covering her before I knew she was doing the live. So, like, everything just lined up perfect. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But what I like about Crime Sleuth is she's been awesome in our community, coming onto our chats and giving alternate theories and ideas, and that is incredible, and connecting with our community, too. And I was able to hop on to the live that she was doing with Kara Kernodle, and it was phenomenal. And I like everything that she's doing. Her approach when talking to Kara was so nice, and just probably the opposite of what I normally am in a conversation. You know, she was going way out of her way to make sure that Carol was comfortable and nothing was too emotionally jarring, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
And
she was buffering it to you know, help keep her comfy and nothing too like traumatic happen. Like, people bring up something that's just like, you know, you're gonna get those commenters, okay, that are gonna say horrible things, and I think she did a really good job managing that, paying attention to that, supporting her moderators so they could do that.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
It just shows a lot of care and concern for the well-being of the people that she's talking to, and I think that is part of the reason why she does what she does, if I had to guess. You know, she will be giving us a response to why true crime's important to her and why she covers it and all those things that we normally cover each week, which will probably come over the screen now, but I just wanted to give a shout out to her because I think she's an awesome content creator, and just showing that level of care and concern about people is not something you see every day when you're walking down the street. You just don't expect to get that kind of kindness from everybody, and that's important. I think that is commendable, and we appreciate everything that you do.
Yeah, that's a really great quality, and I like how much Crime Sleuthin really digs in to whatever she's looking into, and yeah, like you said, she's just really kind and really sweet. Anytime she doesn't agree, she is really respectful, which is top priority at Thought Riot Podcast.
Yeah, it sure is.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And that's like, we look for that when we want to talk to people, interact with people. Like, you could say anything as long as you're respectful.
Absolutely.
And she always remains respectful, which is a tremendous quality, especially in a climate like today.
It is.
It shows strength of character. And
Absolutely.
yeah, we appreciate you, Crime Sleuthin, and keep on keeping on.
Yeah. This spotlight is well-deserved for sure. So if you haven't checked her out, obviously this is, I don't know, we've covered a few creators, but you will have seen the links on the screen. For everyone else, it's at Crime Sleuthin, which, gosh, I probably should spell it, and I need to make sure. For our audio listeners.
That it's on point.
Yeah, I don't want to mess that up. That'd be super messed up. So
yeah.
Okay, so for our audio listeners here, it is excuse me, it is at crime, CRIME, SLEUTHIN. So not crime sleuthing, Crime Sleuthin.
Yep, with a little apostrophe at the end.
No, that's not the at.
Oh, it's
that's
the
just
at.
the name. Yep.
Okay.
So it's no apostrophe at the end. But yeah, check her out, and we approve. A stamp. Yeah. If you love Thought Riot Podcast and you want to get more of us, you can find us at Discord, which will be across the screen right now. We are at Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Spotify. And every week we put these episodes out on all the podcast platform hosts. So they're on everything. We're on Apple, we're on Amazon, we're on all of them. And we actually have two shows. We have Thought Riot Podcast, which is what you're listening to now. And we have the True Crime Talk Show, which is our live version where we usually dig into these topics a little bit deeper. We are communicating with some of the community, and we are taking our premiered episodes and taking them further. Mm-hmm. So, you want to give the live?
Yeah, we go live on YouTube and Twitch Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be there or be square, because it's a good time.
Yes, absolutely. So, now we will go into our breaking news updates.
True crime breaking news.
Yeah. True crime breaking news, not updates.
No.
So, Lori Vallow Daybell, one of the most hated people, I feel like, which rightfully so. I mean,
like literally ever.
Yeah, it must be the tattooed eyebrows or something. I don't know, but she is actually being extradited to Arizona to face conspiracy charges for murder.
After her sentencing. Well, actually, it was her conviction. Actually, I told you that was probably going to happen from everything I was reading.
Yeah. So
finally happening.
It is. It has been signed off on, and we expect to see it happen in the next couple months. But she is going to be facing conspiracy charges in relation to the death of her estranged husband, Charles Vallow, and the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Bordeaux, I think is what it is. So I did a little bit of digging into this, and this is actually, Arizona is a I'm drawing a blank right now.
Extradition state?
No. Arizona is a death penalty state.
Oh.
Death penalty state. So remember, she already got life, which I'm actually surprised it wasn't more, but she got life without parole.
In Idaho, and that was a death penalty state.
It is. Now she's going to Arizona to face more potential murder charges or conspiracy to commit murder charges. And I'm just curious, is she going to get death penalty?
You know, I forgot what the statistic was, but I recently saw a statistic on how much harder it is to get a woman, a female, the death penalty.
Really?
Sentenced with the death penalty. It's like significantly harder.
Yeah.
There are not many women on death row.
I wonder if that takes into account that most mass murderers and serial enders are not women, though, too. So
yeah, but they're just talking about when a woman is charged with it, a crime, and they decide death penalties on the table. It's significantly harder to reach that proof of burden, like to reach, how much evidence they need to feel comfortable saying, yeah. It's human bias.
Yes, it is.
Is what it is.
That's interesting.
It was a study done. We should probably look into it at one point because it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, me personally, I think that there are a lot of times that we're too lenient with the death penalty, but then there are also some that I feel like, okay, like Ted Bundy, absolutely. He has a problem with breaking out. He has a problem with running, and he has... It could be in the triple digits of victims, If I'm going to sign off and stamp on my approval for anybody, it's going to be someone like him. Now, Lori Vallow Daybell, gosh, dude, with the children, I have a hard time looking at that and thinking, like, yeah, she shouldn't get the death penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, I don't really care if she's sitting in prison for the rest of her life, having to, deal with her crazy self, or if she gets the death penalty. Personally, I don't care either way, especially if she isn't attempting to escape. Like what you said with Ted Bundy, that's where I feel like it's absolutely needed.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get this person off the planet.
Jeopardy.
Because he just keeps escaping and killing people over and over and over.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But I don't know. I try and look at these situations without that additional bias in it. And if it was a man, would I feel comfortable giving the green light? And I think I would. So I don't know. I'm curious how everyone else feels about it. But I wouldn't lose sleep over it, obviously. You know what I mean? So, but I'm curious what you guys think. Let us know what you think down in the comments and why.
This past Thursday, a 31-year-old named Lenu Moore was accused of killing his neighbor, her friend, and her pit bull.
What?
And this comes after them having literally months of disputes over her dog barking in her apartment.
So he ends her?
Yeah, and there was literally nearly a month they were on a manhunt for this guy. A manhunt because they couldn't get him. He was on the run. Allegedly this happened. It says on a street near 165th Street in Washington Heights on September 29th, and this is on people.com. But he is, I'm assuming it's a shooting. Yeah, it's a shooting. So he faces charges of murder, criminal possession of a weapon, aggravated criminal contempt, and aggravated cruelty to animals in connection with the September shooting. It's so sad.
Yeah.
And it's all because of her dog barking in her apartment.
That's what I'm saying. That is insane.
She had been scared of him for a while, and she had her friend walking with her to take her dog for a walk because she was afraid of him, and she thought he would do something to her. And then guess what? He did. He literally, in all black, walks past them as they're walking and shoots them.
Yep. So premeditated all day. Mm-hmm. You said he was arrested, so they detained him?
Yeah, after a month-long manhunt.
Man, that is crazy. And I'm glad that person is off the streets, though, because that's one of those situations where, look, your average everyday person, okay, like you listening, yes, you, the one I'm talking to, if you have a neighbor and that neighbor is barking nonstop, your average person isn't going to come up with a plan to go and end your neighbor because of the dog. That is insane.
No, dogs bark around my house all the time. I don't even think about it. You just get used to it and you get over it. It's a dog. There's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, there are things you can do. You can...
Kind of.
Yeah.
You can complain and say, hey, could you... can we figure out how to make this work for both of us? Because that's really bothering me.
Yeah, the communication aspect. But, I mean, you still have other things you can do, too, because it is a noise complaint. Just because it's a living thing, it is a noise complaint, which, obviously every situation is going to be different. But what I'm getting to is that it should never come to this. There is no situation out there, let alone just a dog barking, that it's going to come to somebody losing their life, a human life. That person, that guy, had sociopathic tendencies in him already. That was there. So when I see something like this, where it feels like it's at the drop of a dime, and premeditation and everything, it makes me feel like, okay, are there more?
Right.
Yeah,
for real. So, rest in peace to Jackie Bellini, her pit bull Zeus, and her friend Lavon Harvin, who was just trying to help her out and make sure she was safe while walking her dog because of her freaky ass neighbor. It's just terrible. But there has been a GoFundMe set up to raise funds for her funeral. We will post that. And there's a statement on here about her. And it says, she was known for her vibrant spirit, infectious laughter, and compassionate nature. She had a heart of gold and touched the lives of everyone she encountered. Jackie was always there for her friends and family, offering unwavering support and love. Her sudden departure has left a void in our family and community that can never be filled. And we will post this up so everybody can see it. But yes, Jacqueline Bellini. So far, $24,428 has been raised out of the $30,000 goal, which is great. And that dog is super, super cute. I don't know which one is Zeus, though. There's two of them.
I mean, it's got to be that one that's showing.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's so sad.
That is really sad. I'm glad that person is behind bars and off the streets, and it just sucks that it had to come down to somebody losing their life and a dog losing its life,
I know. And her friend.
Yeah, and her friend. and her friend. So that's really unfortunate. So, Joran Vandersloot. We talked about this last week as an update. Well,
yep.
The courts have released some of the audio of his confession.
And if you don't know, Jordan Vandersloot is the man accused of killing Natalie Holloway, who went missing in Aruba. I don't even remember what year. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
I'm not good with remembering numbers, but it's been, 15 years or something?
Yeah, I think
18 years?
Yeah, it's 18. 18 years.
Yeah.
Because she went missing at 18. He's 36. Because he was 18 and she was, and he's 36 now. So 18 years.
Yeah, It was a senior trip to Aruba, and her mom has literally been hunting for her day and night. Since then. It's so sad.
It's really sad, but I figured we could play some of that because, one thing that really sucks here, and I think that this could be a situation where if enough people care and enough people raise their voices, we could get Aruba to look at charging him.
Yeah, they acted like it was open-ended last week's update.
Yeah, they're probably afraid of people getting angry over it.
So they're just going to hope people forget about it. They're just going to hope people forget about it. Like, oh yeah, we will look into it, even though it's past the statute of limitations. But we'll try, and then hope people just forget.
Yeah, because all he got charged with, as we covered last week, was the fraud for the money.
That's all they can do here in America. Yep. But he was already serving time for murder in Aruba of another woman.
I know. So
it's Fox.
Plus, she has to go back to her hotel, but I was just trying to get dropped off a little bit further away from her hotel, so we could walk back to her hotel, and I might still get a chance to be with her. Okay. That's what I was hoping for.
Okay. So what happens?
Deepak drops me off at a place a little right of the Marriott Hotel known as the Fisherman's Huts. This place is not so far from, the next hotel is the Marriott, and the next hotel after that is another Marriott, which is a timeshare, and then it's the Holiday Inn. We walk along the beach.
Do Deepak and Satish get out, come with you, though? What happens to them?
Deepak and Satish leave. They leave. They go back to their home. I assume they go back to their home. They get in their car and they leave. I'm actually with Natalie walking along the beach. I find a space before we get to the Marriott Hotel, where I lay her down. We lay down together in the sand, and we start kissing each other. I get her to kiss me again. We start kissing each other, and I start feeling her up again, and she tells me no. She tells me she doesn't want me to feel her up. I insist. I keep feeling her up either way, and she knees me. She ends up kneeing me in the crotch. When she knees me in the crotch, I get up on the beach and I kick her extremely hard in the face. She's laying down unconscious, possibly even dead, but definitely unconscious. And I see right next to her there's a huge cinder block laying on the beach.
When you say cinder block, looking at the walls of this place, is it like those?
The exact same cinder blocks. I see a huge cinder block laying on the beach. I take this and I smash her head in with it completely. Her face basically, collapses in. Even though it's dark, I can see her face is collapsed in. Afterwards, I don't exactly know scared. I don't know what to do, and I decide to take her and to put her into the ocean. So I grab her and I half pull and half walk with her into the ocean. I push her off. I walk up to about my knees into the ocean, and I push her off into the sea. After that I get out. I walk home.
Yeah.
So, wait. He claims he took her up to his knees in the water and pushes her off. Would it actually go off? Would it wash away?
Gosh, that's so many.
There's too many
factors.
variables. Huh?
Yeah. Do they have a current in that area? Is it, do they have a strong, what is that, coastal break, I think is what it's called, that pushes things inland? There's so many variables, but when I'm listening to his story, look, if he did it, okay, I am glad that he came out and admitted it so there's some kind of closure for her mom, but when I hear this, it makes me question his story. Like, he's not being honest. Maybe it was a lot worse than what he's willing to come out and say, because, one, that sounds like a scene from a movie, being kneed in the crotch. Let's be real here. I've never heard of a situation like that happening, but I have seen it in multiple movies, multiple times, and there just happened to be a brick laying available, like right there.
A cinder block on the beach.
That's super strange. Now, I do know that there was a wall there. I know it. But is that wall deteriorating so much there's just random blocks laying all over, you know? I don't know. It makes me wonder it was more violent, especially since he has multiple murders under his belt. You know what I mean? And he claims he was scared. Was she his first, or was there one? I think there was one before her, right? At 16.
I don't know if it was before or after. I'm not sure.
But either way, he's had multiple murders under him. So when I hear that, like, one, that is absolutely awful, and it's horrible. The whole situation is horrible, but it still makes me question, is that really what happened?
Yeah, from what I've heard from like Nancy Grace and other people who have followed this since the beginning and know Natalie's mom and have went to Aruba searching for her, and others.
He's a liar.
He is a liar, and they will not ever believe anything he says.
Yeah.
Because they don't think he'll ever really tell the truth. And there was also, like, apparently they only found pieces of her at some point, right? Or was nothing ever found?
Nothing.
Or am I mixing this up?
Nothing. Yeah, nothing's ever been found.
Oh, no, because he said he did, but then they went and looked, and there was nothing there.
Nothing's ever been found.
Yeah.
Yep. But,
which I guess would kind of make sense if you drop somebody in the ocean.
I mean, maybe. Look, you can't go into the ocean, depending on all the factors we just talked about, and only walk up to your knees and, like, cast a body off like a boat. It doesn't work like that.
No.
Waves come inland, and they push things in to where you'll be, like, you know, right at the water line. Now, if there was somebody else involved that he's not trying to incriminate, maybe? Was there something more to it? Because, like, if you're trying to get rid of a body, everyone knows you need enough weight to get them down in past the 30-meter mark, because that's when things sink in water. So, I don't know. These are just all the questions that come up when I'm listening to this, because some things don't add up here. But then I remember, too, He's said like 10 different stories by this time.
Yeah, he has.
So
he has.
I think Aruba needs to look into this. I think they need to make the decision. I think they need to pull the trigger and look into this, and so they can be looked at as a respectable justice system, because something like this just shouldn't be okay.
No, it shouldn't.
In my opinion.
It shouldn't.
Should never be okay.
They never did a solid investigation.
Yeah. Well, it's really awful. I'm curious what you guys think. Are you as disturbed as I was listening to that?
Yeah, it was pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
So this past Wednesday, we were on the Drunk Turkey show. That was Wednesday, right?
I think, yeah.
Okay. So the 25th of October, 2023.
I know it was a day that ends in Y.
We were interrupted. All the days end in Y.
Uh-oh.
We were interrupted, unfortunately, by news of a mass shooting event in Lewiston, Maine.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, we didn't know a ton. There was rumors that there was, 3 guys. We even saw at one point someone saying he was arrested, and we saw literally a video of somebody in the street arrested.
So ridiculous.
It was all over the place. We even heard of him hitting up a Walmart distribution center.
Yeah.
That's not true. And what I thought was interesting is, remember we were hearing that number 22 dead and like over 50 injured or something like that.
Yep.
Well, the numbers are officially 18 dead. And I don't remember. I think it's like 20-something injured.
Gosh. 18 is still too many, man.
It is way too many.
One is too many, obviously. That is such a horrible situation. I can't even imagine being in a situation like that. And the worst part about it is, like, that guy was ready to go. So the close-up pictures of him this didn't seem like a spur-of-the-moment event. It seemed like it was planned. He had mags and tons of ammo in his pockets. He had the type of clip that could be interchangeable really quick with a completely new round of bullets, Mm-hmm. It's just really unfortunate why someone would think that they need to go down that path to be heard.
Yeah, he had mags, double mags, basically, on his gun. Yeah,
to where you can pop it out and pop it back in. It's
quick. Yeah.
Which tells me that he was expecting a lot of shooting, and he had them in his pockets too, which you can see on the picture. So just wild, horrible situation, man.
Yeah, and he wasn't only planning this, but he also was a firearms instructor. Okay, and I just heard news that is horrible. So the official numbers are 18 dead, 13 injured. I find that interesting. Why were we hearing over 50 injured, 22 dead? I'm wondering how those numbers got inflated so much. And I'm sure there's an explanation. I'm sure there is. It's hectic. It is so hectic in a situation like that. And the places he hit were opposite ends of town. So that makes it even more confusing, and they couldn't find him, and it was days of hunting for him.
Yeah.
So, Maine police were alerted weeks ago about threats from this man. Weeks ago. He was making threats. So, police in Maine were warned by the U.S. Army. It says reservist? I don't know. That's what they're calling him, I guess. I guess he's in the reserves.
Yeah.
He's in the Army Reserves.
I think so. I think he's ex-military.
Reservist?
Yeah.
But anyway, that he was making veiled threats. And he would go on to carry out the worst massacre in Maine. And this is on the AP News. 2 local law enforcement chiefs told the Associated Press that in mid-September, they were supposed to increase their alertness and awareness and to keep a lookout specifically for Robert Card after he made threats to people on his base and fellow soldiers.
And so does it say in there that they didn't follow up on these things? Is that what the big concern is? Or?
So they said they stepped up patrols, went to the base, went to his home, and it said neither of them turned up any sign of him, and they moved on. They said they added extra patrols for about 2 weeks. He never showed up.
He was somewhere planning, man, and that is just awful. That is horrible, and our hearts go out to anyone who was impacted by that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Military officials have declined to comment any further about him.
Which is common.
Yeah.
I gotta say, that's common. The military is always tight-lipped about everything. They do not have to follow the same rules and regs about freedom of information or any of those things.
Yeah. So apparently he had just been committed to a mental health facility in June for 2 weeks for acting erratically and hearing voices and threats to shoot up a military base.
Jeez.
Why did he not do the military base? Why did he do literally a bowling alley and a bar in a whole city? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, and it really sucks. I don't know. I don't know.
It's really sad. You know...
Was he going for mass casualties? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a military base, I'm sure they're going to be quicker to grab guns and things like that.
So what I'm guessing is that he made these threats. Okay, he got committed to this mental health facility, and when he got out, he went into hiding because he knew that they were on alert.
Yeah.
Okay, so he went into hiding, and then everyone's looking for him. Like, I don't know. Should they have moved on in 2 weeks?
I mean, how many resources can you put into something? Now, sure, looking back at this situation, I think anybody would be like, gosh, you guys should have put more resources into it. But the thing is, when you're faced with that question and you're faced with that situation beforehand, you don't know if 2 weeks is going to turn into 3 weeks, is going to turn into 3 months, is going to turn into 12 months. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess it comes down to the people who pay those bills. Did they have the funds to keep looking for this guy that didn't actually commit a crime and only produce threats? I don't know. I don't think there's a right answer here. You know? And we say all the time that we advocate for police, for fire, for all law enforcement, judges, people in the justice system. None of those jobs are very easy. They're all paid by taxpayer money. But when there is a bad cop, when there is somebody doing something against the law and you're in one of those positions, you need to be judged and held accountable very, 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 very harshly. I just look at this and I don't know if there's someone to blame. I'm actually surprised they put in 2 weeks with nothing. Honestly.
I mean, mass shooters are a threat we have to deal with now.
Absolutely.
They're very... I mean... It's the numbers are unprecedented. They're crazy. They're crazy how many mass shootings we have.
I just wonder how many threats they get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. But if somebody's making a threat to do something like that, I think they're very much at risk of actually following through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially somebody with military training.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. Having somebody who has real military training be a mass shooter.
Agreed.
That's like really, really high risk in my opinion, because they know how to evade authorities much better. They know how to get as many kills as quickly as possible. They probably have access to way better firearms. You know what I mean?
Yep. They have the connections to maximize all of that damage and threat. I hear you. I get it.
The planning, tactical advantages with entering a place and getting out of a place.
Yeah. I just don't know what the right answer is. I feel like this is one of those few situations where I look at it and I think, okay, well, without any of that background information of how much funds they have to put into something like this, when they're getting nowhere, when they did check his house, when they did search anything that was connected to him, I feel like they did all the right things. I just don't know if it's fair for us to be like, God, Maine police, how could you, just continue looking aimlessly and spending tons of money and pulling resources from other people? I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't know.
Personally, I don't know either, which is why I would like to know what you guys think, if you have any, insight on that. But, so finally, actually I think it was yesterday, right? Is when it first popped up on the news that they found him.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Pretty sure it was yesterday. Pretty sure. Maybe it was earlier today.
Yeah.
Either Friday or Saturday, okay? 28th or 29th. Or actually, no. It was, 28th, Saturday. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So it says authorities came out and said they found his body inside a trailer close to a recycling center. He had self-inflicted gunshot wounds, which apparently caused his death. He also left a note. So they found a long gun, and they found a note that had been addressed by him to a loved one, and it was not an explicit, goodbye note where, you're going to end yourself and then, you know what I mean? I'm saying it without saying the word, the S word. But it did include access codes to his bank accounts and a cell phone that investigators are currently trying to examine.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So this past Friday, they also released all the names of the victims, and the dead ranged from people in their 70s to a teenage boy. I just saw that there was a group of deaf men, friends, a bunch of friends, four deaf,
handicapped,
4 deaf friends who were, sadly, their lives were taken.
Yeah, and they couldn't even hear the gunshots in that situation. If they're 100% deaf, I guess I'm just assuming there, but maybe they could feel it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's awful. That is horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. So this is tragic to that community. I can't imagine. I've heard nothing but it's a very close-knit, tight community. These people were out at the bowling alley having a fun family event night or couples night or, hanging out with friends or at the bar. And it's just really sad that you can't even go somewhere like a bowling alley or a bar without having this in the back of your head now, because it's happened and we all have to think about it. And especially the people in this town. It's scarred now.
Yeah.
And, I hope the best for them. I wish them nothing but healing and, getting past this, and hopefully better policies, standards in the future, because clearly they did have some kind of knowledge that this could happen. And I think where there's a risk like that, I think something's got to be in place where even if you just assign one investigator, just keep tabs on this, okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. I'm sure there are other things that can be done. I just don't know what those are right now. Yeah. I
agree. And there's circumstances, obviously, we're not going to know completely. So it's hard to give an exact opinion on this, but because they'd have to literally go hunt him down to stop this. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Because once he's out there with a gun shooting people, it's done. It's happening.
Correct.
So.
Yep. It's really unfortunate, and I don't know if it could have been avoided.
Honestly, I don't think he should have ever been let out of the mental hospital.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly where the real fail is for me personally. But let me know what you guys think.
Yeah. So, Ricky Lynn Laughlin of St. James, Missouri, allegedly asked for nudes from her victim via Snapchat and sent him her naked videos and photos. So this is a 25-year-old teacher in Missouri who pursued one of her male students. Yeah.
Gross.
Disgusting.
How old is the boy? Does it say?
16. 16 years old. So a difference of 9 years. But look, you're looking at a kid that's 16. They're still growing. That is so disgusting.
Yeah.
So disgusting. Like, I have a hard time looking at the situation and, like, look, if you saw someone that was 25 with someone that was 35, I get it, but the difference is 25 is considered an adult. There is no more physical growth or anything there, you know? So I just don't understand how a 25-year-old teacher could look at a 16-year-old student and even have any kind of attraction or anything like that, because she was literally pursuing him.
Even if she did, you that's just a line that can't be crossed. Like, even if internally she was like, man, he's really good looking, you just can't go there, ever.
Agreed. And as a teacher, you would think that you would have better sense than that, you know? So she's looking at 6 felonies.
Good.
I agree. It is very good in this situation.
A lot in the past, women teachers were not held accountable for preying on young boys the same way that men teachers were held accountable for preying on young girls. And we need to see that be equal, because it is just as damaging to a young boy, even if, we've beat it into them that they cannot be victims. It still affects them tremendously.
Yeah.
Even if they don't think that it does.
Absolutely, absolutely. It can change those, like in this situation, that boy's image of what a relationship should look like, could look like, and that hinders what a healthy relationship should look like as he continues to grow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. There are a ton of problems there that I think a lot of people miss when looking at these situations, like that perception aspect. Is this going to cause this 16-year-old boy to only be attracted to older women in an unhealthy type of way, where he's missing good connections with people his own age or with women of similar life experiences as him? I don't know. I just know that it should never be acceptable. I'm glad she got 6 felonies, and I hope she's convicted of them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I really do, and I hope this creates a standard across the nation for any situation like this that includes a woman teacher,
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely horrible. And for one, any teacher that's out there, like, why would you even connect with a student on social media?
I think most would not. They would not.
I hope not. That is already creating a risk there that gives them a direct connection to you that, in my opinion, as a leader in their life, and that's what a teacher is, right? An adult leader in a child's life, that should not be there. That personal connection, like Snapchat and social media. Everyone understands what happens on social media. Tons of people find relationships on social media and things like that, and I just don't think that's acceptable.
Yeah.
So, and it's just strange that she pursued him, and she went out of her way to first send him nudes and then asked him to send them back, and he started talking about it, and she had heard, like, through the grapevine and other students that knew about it, so she reached out to him, asked him to delete everything because she didn't want to be in trouble. It is a wild situation.
Gross.
It is. It is disgusting. And I think that this is another one of those situations where, look, teachers, in my opinion, are public servants. They're serving our general public and population in teaching those kids, and they're being paid through taxpayer money. This is another one of those situations where I feel like they need to be judged and graded really harsh.
Yeah.
We just can't accept okay in our public servants, of any of them.
No, and teachers, you're literally entrusting them with your child's life.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and it's a big deal that you are an authority figure that's teaching them and molding the adult that they should be, you know?
Yeah.
You need
partially raising your child.
Absolutely.
They have a great influence.
Accountability and teaching them how an adult should act. But, I always hate covering anything with children, but it's important we talk about it. It is important that it's talked about. It is important that we look at these situations and try and learn and change how we handle things to reduce these kinds of crimes happening.
Agreed.
Yeah. But let me know what you guys think. As always.
So, this is also a very wild tale. This woman, Lori Jane Kersey, is I believe how it's said, apparently went missing. Wait. Yeah, it's 1984. She went missing in 1984 after marrying someone her family thinks was in, like, a crime family. A Boston crime family, like a part of them. So she gets married to this guy. She drops off her daughter, leaving her with her ex, the father, and takes off on, like, a honeymoon with this guy and never comes back. Ever.
Oh, man. What? And he does?
You know, I don't know actually what happened to him. It's worth looking into more, but her family, all these years later, 39 years later, get a call from detectives in Davie, Florida, asking if any of their family, immediate family, went missing in 1984. Because they have a Jane Doe they just identified using DNA.
Wow.
And it was her.
That's incredible. And we keep seeing these cases of Jane Does or, John Does that are being identified right now because of the new DNA testings that we're using.
Yep. It's incredible. So, I mean, I thought this was crazy. Her daughter's speaking in this article, which is on Fox News, just about how it was finding out about that, what it was like growing up, and like they have like a composite type sketch, and she said she looks very similar to that sketch of her mother. But
that's probably strange.
Yeah.
A strange feeling.
Yeah, that you look similar to your missing mother's composite sketch. Right. I know. It's really strange. It would feel really weird looking at that.
Yeah.
And thinking about what happened to her, because they still don't really know. So she was floating face down in a canal in West Davie, Florida in February. That's where she was found, and she had been strangled.
Okay.
Why, if it was her husband, why would he marry her and then go like on a little vacation honeymoon thing and kill her?
Look, it has to be the husband.
Yeah.
Come on.
I agree, but why would he do that?
I have no idea.
Just marry her just to kill her?
I don't know. I have no idea. Was it a scheme? So he said he was part of a crime family. Did he open up an insurance claim to gather later?
I don't know.
Is he just that violent of a person that, they had one fight or something like that, and this is what it turned into? I don't know, but it makes me curious. It makes me want to know more. Did he claim her or file a missing person report? What are the details around this,
Yeah, I would love to know, and I think they don't know because it was such a long cold case. I mean...
Yeah?
It got reopened in 2021.
40 years, basically.
Yeah, it was. It was basically 40 years of the case being cold. This woman has a whole life. She has children of her own now, her daughter. And it's just wild. But I would love for them... So they have suspects, by the way.
Oh.
They do.
Wow. That's awesome.
I believe her husband is still alive. And her daughter made a statement saying, this man probably has children and grandchildren who adore him. Him going to jail doesn't do anything to my life, but he probably won't sleep very well for the rest of his life. Whoever did this can always be wondering. There are so many new answers in testing evidence. They'll be scared that the one thing they thought would never come up came up. That's good enough for me.
Wow, that is... interesting that she's looking at it that way. So she's not even pushing for...
Well, she went 40 years of having no idea. I'm sure she came to terms with that at some point. Like, I'm never going to know what happened to my mom.
I don't know if I would be...
I wouldn't be okay with that.
Right.
I wouldn't.
I just don't feel like that would be justice, and I don't feel like somebody that can end another person's life like that so easy should be in the general public. Like, I'm not even looking at it from my own personal perspective. I would be worried about not holding them accountable because they're around other people, and if anything ever happened to another person, I would feel kind of at fault.
Me too. And I'm curious how many people he has under his belt for him to, like, marry her, go on a honeymoon, kill her, and then just be gone.
It's strange.
And it is strange. So...
It's a very uncommon situation.
It is. Broward County Crime Stoppers is asking for anybody with information, potential information. It says pertinent. Information, but they're asking you to call their Crime Stoppers number, which is 954-493-TIPS for a potential reward of $5,000. Which I'm sure is if you give information that helps lead to an arrest.
Yeah.
So, we'll post pictures up here. The Crime Stoppers number on the screen, and hopefully I'd be so curious to see if this gets solved and they get an arrest. So curious to find out what happens with this.
Me too.
And I want to know who the Boston crime family is. Like, who are they talking about here? In 1984, that's still like some mafia time.
That is, yep. I'm more curious of the science they use to find the killer. That stuff interests me.
Oh.
If you guys didn't know already from the videos, I always tend to lean into like those expert, detailed topic videos because that stuff interests me. How? Like what are they going to use science-wise that's going to help them catch the killer 40 years later?
Right.
I mean, that body was bones. It had to be.
Well, I mean, she was found in 1984.
Oh.
So DNA.
What?
Yeah, she was found face down in a canal in West Davie in February 1984, and was finally linked to Smith after the long cold case was reopened in 2021. So
got it.
I'm guessing her daughter probably uploaded her DNA to a database, I'm assuming what happened, and that's how they got that connection and called her daughter.
Got it.
And said, did you have any close family members disappear in 1984? Because they've had this Jane Doe all of this time.
Got it. Yep.
So,
I was thinking of it wrong. Okay, so they already had her.
Yeah, they've had her all this time. They just didn't know who it was.
So then there could be good DNA evidence on her that they could be following up.
Another terrible detail. I don't think she was ever reported missing by the family.
Oh,
which is
sketchy.
Really strange. Like, I don't know why the people who were looking over her daughter, like, was she on drugs? Like, was she known to disappear? Like, why was she never ever reported missing
by anyone? That's shady.
That's really strange.
Weird.
Yeah. Right? So, anyway, yeah, if you guys have any pertinent information, Call Crime Stoppers. Let us know what you think. I really want to see this solved.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
40 years later. Bam.
It's also really interesting hearing the daughter's perspective on it.
Yeah, it is. But that is it for our true crime breaking news, not updates.
We are talking Delphi, the murder of Abby and Libby, and Richard Allen's court proceedings, okay?
Yeah.
The removal of his defense, because let's be honest, they didn't actually step down. They were forced to. We read through all of the documents on stream, word for word. If you're interested in going and looking at that, or if you're an audio listener, it will be on our other podcast channel, which is the True Crime Talk Show. We read through all of it and dug into it and talked about it, so I don't feel like it's needed for me to go through all the details, but a quick rundown is basically Attorney Rossi calls out the judge and says, look, you put us in between a rock and a hard space where you said, the judge, prior to the hearing, the emergency hearing that happened recently, that she took them in her chambers prior to the court proceedings, and they had a discussion where she laid out all of these things that she had issues with them, their negligence, okay, in their defense.
Negligence.
Right. And she then says that you guys can either step down now, or you can go out into the courtroom in front of the nation, because there's cameras in the courtroom today, and all the police officers in the jury box, the prosecution, and your client and his family members, and all the victims' family members, and be basically shamed.
Not basically,
be removed.
Literally.
Be removed, disqualified from the case, and be publicly shamed. So, naturally, they stepped down. Baldwin had actually gotten a lawyer, his lawyer Hennessy, which there was no money exchange, by the way. Hennessy offered to do this for him. Write a memo that morning explaining the leaks, okay, because recently there were crime scene photo leaks that went around.
Happened under his watch.
Yep, they happened on his watch in his office. They were stolen from his office, and he explained how that happened, how they've made changes, and why he should be on the defense team. Then we have this shock of her saying that, you know, they were stepping down. Well, Baldwin actually did verbally say, I'm stepping down. Rossi did not. He said he was going to write up something later. So he never officially stepped down ever.
Correct.
Instead, he wrote these documents calling her out, telling us what actually happened in those chambers, all the things that she said she had issues with, which were really... It wasn't okay for that to be an issue with her. Her issue was needing to control the defense.
Yeah, and that is not okay. And what's interesting, one thing that I think you forgot to add in there is when she gave them this ultimatum, and like, let's just cut off like all the court talk. When she threatened them, they said, look, we need to think about this. We need time. And I believe he wanted to call his attorney, and she said no.
Right.
You tell me here and now, this is what's happening.
Yes. And
wild. What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All because these supposed crime scene photo leaks. And I have heard from lawyers all over the internet saying this is not normal.
No.
Even if there is a leak of information, normally lawyers are not taken off the case. They're not removed for something like that. The, rapport, the relationship they've built with their client is important. They don't want to delay cases anymore. There's other things that are more important, and there's ways to fix the issue and continue, which I strongly feel that could have been done here. This judge clearly has a bias against these defense lawyers, and I think it's all because of that memorandum with the Franks motion talking about the Odinist cult.
Yep.
And against Richard Allen, which I think makes her, which Rossi's also alleging in these documents, not qualified to be over this case any
Agreed.
longer, and he wants her removed or her to step down. Well, now
Recuse
you're caught
herself.
up. You're caught up now.
Yep.
Now we have new documents where she says that she's taking no action. This is what it says. Court notes filing from former Attorney Rossi on October 25th, 2023, and takes no action. Attorney Rossi withdrew from this matter on October 19th and is no longer counsel of record. These filings, therefore, are ordered stricken from the record. Clerk of the court ordered to remove the pleadings from the electronic case file and the chronological case summary as being filed in error. So she says, you're not a lawyer here anymore. You quit. And I've ordered the court clerk to remove you.
And if you want to see these documents, you guys...
And remove the documents. She struck all of it from the record. Like, she took all of it out of the court filings.
Of.
And she's also been doing this, like the memorandum.
Yep,
and apparently
I know.
she's been doing it all illegally.
Yep.
All of it is illegal.
Yep. So there are a few things that I think is really important for us to highlight here. And this chain of paperwork is I forget what they call it. What do they call that? The history, the timeline or whatever, where every case has this timeline of occurrences, of events. And as paperwork comes in, it gets filed into the correct timeline of when it occurred. And that is never to be messed with. Like, things that get stricken from that, it should be so few and so far between that should never, ever, ever, ever happen. And what is interesting is she's backdating it to his verbal statement, or he didn't make a statement that he was quitting. She made a statement saying that he was submitting something later. So he never said it. And, or she's claiming he said it, or
we don't know for sure.
We don't know
Which
for
he
sure.
did request the audio, because it was taped. That whole conversation was taped. He requested it. That was one of the documents.
Great.
Yeah.
That should be. But where I was going with these documents, though, is we have all of them. You can no longer call the clerk and get these documents. They are on all of our social media. They are on YouTube. They're on our Twitter. They're on our Instagram. They're literally everywhere on all of our social media. So if you're curious to read all of them, you can go read them on there. Or if you want to hear us talk about it and read them, like Malia said, they are on the True Crime Talk Show. But that should not be messed with. That timeline, that history. I know there's a name for it, and I'm having an ADHD moment right now. I don't remember what it's called.
I think it's the electronic case file or something like that.
Something. But it should never be messed with. And then to hear that it's been altered and adjusted the entire time, that is not common for a judge to do. Just like her removing them is not common. So that relationship between an attorney who lives, like, they are the managers of the law. Let me put it this way. So if Rozzy stepped forward and offered services to Alan, the judge wouldn't even have a say in removing them. Like, that's how privileged that relationship is between attorney and client. The only reason she has a little baby smidgen of power to try and threaten them off the case is because she was the one who chose them.
They were court-appointed attorneys.
Court-appointed attorneys, and she is the representative of that.
Right. She appointed them. It's super messed up.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
So David R. Hennessy, which is Baldwin, Andrew Baldwin, who was the other attorney that was on the defense counsel where the leaks came from, and who actually did say he was stepping down verbally, at least from what we know. His lawyer, Hennessy, came out with a document saying that the court issued the following order. Clerk of the Carroll Circuit court ordered to remove Attorney Baldwin's and Rossi's as attorneys of record in this cause. And he's basically saying that what she's doing here is not okay, that it's illegal, that it shouldn't be happening, because this isn't the court clerk's job. Or the county clerk. I'm sorry, county clerk. He says this is an elected position, elected by the people. She or he is a member of the executive branch of government, not judicial. Their job is to keep an accurate record of the court filings.
Yeah.
And no judge has the authority to oversee the clerk or order the clerk to alter the record of court filings. That isn't supposed to happen. And
that doesn't surprise
She's literally
me.
putting it in documents that she's doing it. She's recording her own illegal activity. It's so stupid. A judge may order sealings of filings only if she complies with access to court record rules, which Judge Gull has not. She has obtained a coerced and involuntary oral motion of Mr. Baldwin that withdrawal is nullity and invalid. I've never seen the word, like, null and void is what he should, for simplicity, whatever. And he lists, like, why it's invalid and stuff.
Sure.
He's basically saying there's no valid withdrawal. She can't just remove records like this. And that this is interfering with the attorney-client relationship.
Yes.
And was done outside of the presence of Richard Allen, the accused, and prejudices his substantial right to the effective representation of counsel, which I entirely agree.
Yep.
I entirely agree. I think this is egregious. I don't understand how, I just don't understand how they are going to get past this. Like, can an attorney appeal to a Supreme Court about a judge in a case?
Oh, absolutely. They can file a complaint to have the courts look into Judge Gull, but I assume that they're going to keep fighting. I think that based on everything that we've seen, they are bought into this case, and it is not about the money. I truly, based on what we're seeing, think they believe Richard Allen is innocent. Whether he is or isn't, that's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going is just that it's important to look at how his lawyers have been fighting for him, and maybe the approach they took is super harsh, and people are looking at this and like, oh my gosh, how could they say Colt, But that's the approach they took, and if they aren't breaking the law, then we need to let them do their job. And to me, it is insane that you have a judge that is stepping all over the law, because clearly she has some kind of bias here. I hope it's personal bias and not criminal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Being suggested the direction the case should go. And another interesting point, so these two attorneys have never had any complaint, have never had any disciplinary action, have never had anything bad said about them ever.
No.
And then she appoints two that do.
I know. So that's what I was going to bring up next. I also have an order issued here, but it's really long, so I think we should read it on stream when, we have like time to go through it and really talk about it. But this order issue, I also find really interesting. In this, one thing that I saw that caught my attention is that she denied him being transferred. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Which is super messed up, in my opinion, considering the statements we have from the corrections officers who admitted to wearing the patches.
Yeah.
But yes, and I have the notice here where she appoints Robert C. Screamin? Scremin? It's a weird last name. It's just odd. It's an odd last name that I've never seen before. But she appointed him and one other attorney, which is William Labrado, as Richard Allen's new defense attorneys. And I haven't had time to really dig into their history, but I know I see a lot of rumors on the internet that these are not such great lawyers. But we'll see. I want to have official things before I like disparage somebody's name. That's what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I do have one thing here, and I saw this posted to Reddit. Somebody brought this up, and this is on Wayne.com. Fort Wayne attorney gives insight into Delphi developments, and this was posted November 29th, 2022. Where in this video, he says, even if specific weapon, hasn't been fired, there's still an extractor that grabs the edge of that bullet, flips it out, and that process often, not always, but often leaves marks and dents. And those marks and dents can be very specific to the weapon it came out of. So even if it hasn't been fired, in a laboratory, they can go back, put a similar type of shell casing in it, the specific weapon, in a laboratory environment, eject the round, and then compare the two. So I think he thinks that evidence is very valid, which people are concerned about.
Yeah.
That because ever since that, it's called the magic bullet. Ever since that came out and people have really been looking into that, it seems that with the way guns are manufactured nowadays, they're almost perfect. They're not the way they used to be when they were made by hand. The little dents and marks left on the bullets, especially if it hasn't been fired through the chamber, guns are so uniform that there's not much differences. So it's not to the extent the way it was before, where it was like a fingerprint and it was like spot on. It's actually a lot harder, and there's a lot less differences nowadays.
Yeah.
Because of the manufacturing process. So, I've heard a lot of people saying that this one little bullet, other than that,
is the only evidence.
And him admitting to being there that day, which supposedly in a different time frame, that is the only evidence.
Yeah.
Period. Which is honestly not very strong.
No.
It's not very strong, considering that the property that Abby and Libby were found on, that man who owned that property, Ron Logan, had a gun which could have been connected also, possibly, because it took the same kind of bullets. So
Agreed.
I'd be curious, if they did these ballistics on that gun, would it be super similar too?
I have so many questions around this, and one of the interesting things is, when we first covered this, based on what we were reading and what we were seeing, we really, really, really thought it was Richard Allen. Now, I just don't know. I'm not willing to commit and say that, no, I think he's 100% innocent.
I'm not either.
I'm not willing to commit and say that I think he's 100% guilty. What I am willing to do is give the man a fair trial and allow the defense and the prosecution to continue investigating their case with an unbiased judge who is there to manage the case. What is going on here?
Isn't it kind of funny that Rossi files this motion for her to step down as judge, voluntarily withdraw from the case, which she kind of did to them. Like, he's kind of doing it back to her, which is kind of funny. Turn of events. Because it doesn't happen often where a defense attorney comes out and calls out a judge like this. She throws it out.
And she's not
her
supposed
own removal.
to.
No.
It's supposed to be left there as record.
Well, she throws it out, and she also strikes it from the record, basically, like this never happened.
Yeah.
Which is super, super, super messed up.
It is sus. It is sus for sure.
I know you also have some updates to this, which Brendan's going to bring up, next. So I'm not going to dive into some of those other things. But one thing that she did also do was a decorum order for the next hearing, October 31st, which is apparently when we're going to see these new attorneys.
2 days.
Yeah. So it's long. It's really long, this decorum order, okay? But some main takeaways, which I got from Fox 59, are the courthouse will be open at 8 a.m. All members of the public, including media, will be subject to metal detectors. Cell phones are permitted, but must be turned off, and no one will be permitted to stand in the courtroom. I don't know why. I don't know why she did this. I thought that was odd. What's up? Well, I don't. What? After all, a decorum order? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that also has to do with what you're going to talk about next, I think, because it talks about the no camera thing. Mm-hmm. I find that interesting. Mm-hmm. And Brennan's going to dig into that next. But this is just some quick updates on what's going on. I am frankly disgusted with this judge. I feel like it's a total abuse of power. I don't understand what her goal is here, because at this point, if he were convicted, I think he, in a heartbeat, could get this turned over.
Yeah, agreed.
There's clearly a lot of misconduct here.
Yes, there is.
And
yes,
honestly, at first, I was expecting it from the prosecutor, not the judge.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
I agree. Yeah.
So, anyway,
we'll keep our eyes on the case. Let us know what you guys think.
Let's keep our eyes peeled on this. This is incredibly important. And I know, there's other cases that are really interesting and get a lot of attention and people want to see, a lot of. This is one that we need to pay attention to, because I feel like this is a matter of, our justice system in this area of the country being in shambles. If this can happen, it is in shambles.
I agree.
This is rights being violated.
Yeah, it sure
is. It's important.
Laws being broken.
I want to hear your guys' opinion on this judge's conduct. What you think is going to happen. How are these attorneys going to battle this? Because they're saying, no, we are still his attorneys. We are.
I know.
That's what they're saying, basically.
And that's what I was saying earlier, is that client-attorney privilege is protected. A judge cannot just lightly, out of nowhere, come forward and be like, you know what? I don't like you as judges, so I'll figure it out. Or I'm sorry, I don't like you as attorneys, so I'll figure it out, and I'm going to appoint ones I do like. That is not how the justice system works. That is not how a defendant should have to manage that trial. That is completely one-sided and not okay, whether he's guilty or not.
Agreed.
If he's guilty, let's prove it.
Yeah. Right.
But
give him a fair trial,
All right, so we just covered the recent updates around the Delphi case and Richard Allen's lawyers being removed. So I wanted to dig into, and I think quite a few of you did too, with all the comments we're getting on these videos and everything, who exactly is Judge Francis C. Gull? Right?
It's important.
What is the background there with the decisions that are being made? So, it's interesting. Now, Francis M.C. Gull has been on the bench for 25 plus years. She does have a religious affiliation, which I think could be interesting when taking into account why certain decisions are made and things like that. Now, should it ever happen? No, but does it help connect dots? You know what I mean?
What's her religious affiliation?
Lutheran.
Okay.
Now, I'm not putting any religion down, but there are certain factions out there that that tend to be a little more. I guess I should say they tend to be more focused around image.
Yeah.
So it looks like this gives her salary, but so her current position is an elected position.
Oh.
Yeah, so last election won was November 3rd of 2020, and she won by 100% of the votes.
Was she even going against someone else then? Probably not.
It doesn't say, but probably not. Now, she does, that position expires in 2026. Now, background, okay? So she was She was first elected judge in 1996 and has been reelected 4 times. She went to Valparaiso University in 1983, bachelor's degree from St. Joseph's College in 1980, and has been a licensed attorney since May 15th of 1984. So, like, when I'm looking at judges, I'm seeing all good signs here, right?
Yeah.
These are all good things. Have been practicing law for a very, very long time.
She's well seasoned.
Yeah, a lot of experience. The people like her, unless there's somebody not running against her, but still, there are people voting for her. It shows the vote count. You know what I mean? People are voting for her. But yeah, I found it super interesting. Her license to practice law in Indiana is active and in good standing. She has no disciplinary action. None. No disciplinary actions against her to going from her voted position to 7/1 of 2011. Now, it looks like the person that I'm reading this from has sent requests to find out if we can dig further back, further from 1997 to see if there has been anything from there. I was doing digging, I was searching, I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, well, I'm also curious, like, when a judge messes up, how often are they given a disciplinary action, like a write-up, basically? How you know what I mean? How often are they really, truly held accountable?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I didn't look up those stats, but that's a good question to ask, is how often does this even happen? Does it get swept under the rug? Or not necessarily swept under the rug, but is it handled in a different way?
They get a
you know
little
what
pass,
I mean?
yeah, because they're a well-experienced judge, and you made this little mistake, we'll let that slide.
Right, right. So Judge Francis C. Gull has served as a judge excuse me, in the Allen Superior Court since January 1st, 1997. Now, from 1990 to 1996, Judge Gull was Chief Deputy Prosecutor, Allen County Prosecutor's Office, and it says, with other titles throughout this time span, including Chief Counsel of the Criminal Division, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney of the Sex Crimes Unit, and Section Chief of Felony Division. Again, I hear all great things there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
1988 to 1989, Magistrate for Allen Circuit Court. 1987 to 1990, Prosecutor for Allen County Prosecutor's Office. 1984 to 1987, Traffic Court Referee for Allen Superior Court. 1983 to 1984, Law Clerk, Family and Criminal Divisions in Allen Superior Court. 1981 to 1982, Legal Secretary for Stuart Hyvonen, Attorney at Law. Now, she's also done some teaching, and she has quite a few recognitions here. In 2015, G. Thomas Munsterman Award, National Center for State Courts for work to make jury management more effective and more representative. 2003, Fort Wayne Fire Department Community Service Award for contributions to diversity training. 2002, Hometown Hero Award by Indiana District 10, Little League Baseball. 2002, Citizen of the Year Award, Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. 1997, recognition for outstanding contribution to STOP, S-T-O-P, grant judges and prosecutors training by the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. 1996, Fraternal Order of Police Special Award for outstanding service with the Allen County Law Agencies. 1995, Patrolmen's Benevolent Association Law Enforcement Oscar Award for outstanding achievement and service. So, I was doing some digging into her background, and apparently she helped start this program for essentially it's at-risk gun owners. So, what that means, based on everything that I could tell, is she created a program and managed this law where, let's say I had a mental breakdown, okay, and I shouldn't have guns, or my family members believe I shouldn't have guns. Apparently, you can go to the court and submit something, and then a judge oversees that decision and can take those guns that are listed away.
Okay.
But it doesn't stop that person from buying more guns, so...
well, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. But ultimately, so where I'm going here is everything that I'm reading says that the Honorable Francis C. Gull has done a lot of really positive work as a judge. So, where is the disconnect here?
Yeah.
Where's the disconnect? I think this judge is making a lot of very poor decisions in this situation. And is this going to turn into something where people are going to start digging into past cases and they are going to find that Judge Gull has been doing this a long time?
Yeah, that
taking things out of record?
Uncover bias, uncover her, taking things out of the court case filings and stuff like that. I'm curious if they're going to find that too. It doesn't, I mean, these are lawyers who are all practicing in Indiana, and it doesn't seem that it happens. Like, It seems like it's a her thing, but we don't know for sure. So I'm really curious about that. See, my suspicion, okay, is that nowadays, we're seeing this with almost every high-profile case. They're gagging and sealing everything.
Yes.
They don't want the public involved. They don't want anybody knowing anything. My suspicion is she really didn't like this, because I feel like what the defense did here with this Frank's motion, the Frank's motion, okay, was to get rid of the search warrant, saying that Tony Liggett lied.
Yeah.
He made stuff up, and he lied to get that search warrant, which makes it null and void, invalid. So in order to substantiate that, they had to write this Frank's memorandum to explain how he lied, how he didn't investigate this other angle, and the witnesses. It's very...
And the why.
And the why.
Yeah.
And the why.
From their opinion.
Right. After going through all the discovery that the state gave to them, they put this all together and were like, whoa, this guy's lying. He's not looking at this. He's not, there's a mess up with the witnesses who saw this person on this day, It's interesting. But I feel like she sees that as a workaround to get around a gag order, and the sealing of all of this, and everybody in the media was saying this is the attorneys, trying to taint the jury pool and do all of this stuff. And also, it's salacious. It's juicy. It's a cult murder of this unsolved murder of these two beautiful, sweet young girls all these years ago. And to find out something like this, it's crazy.
It is.
And I feel like that was looked down on very poorly by other officials in the court system.
Yep. It's not standard practice.
It's not standard for this to happen, which it doesn't mean it's wrong.
No,
I think
doesn't.
What they did was right. I think that transparency to the public is incredibly important. I think that it's kind of messed up that we never knew anything about what happened to these little girls. I think it's important, and I think that the truth needed to be told.
Yeah.
And I don't, now, while I don't think the 100% truth is in that document, that's not what I'm saying, there is truths in there.
Yeah. I agree with you. No, I agree with you 100%. And, analyzing that Frank's motion, I go back to also where I think that they were taking multiple angles with this, okay? So, because remember, they also were involved in these situations where attorney-client privilege, they should be able to just go see their client when they want, but because he was moved, it forced them to have to call ahead of time. That is not okay. That's not okay. That is never, ever, ever supposed to happen. He was put into a holding cell, an area for convicted criminals. He is not a convicted criminal yet. He is still innocent until proven guilty, and they put him there claiming that it was for his own safety, which then caused the attorneys to not be able to just show up whenever they want, which red flags, right? In my opinion, red flags.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, and they weren't, even when they did come, these guards were supposedly standing outside recording them.
Exactly.
So he never got his attorney-client privilege.
Exactly. And that's where I was going with that, was that they also have this evidence that they're adding to it. So if I'm his attorneys, right, and I want to get this information out and done in a way where if I put a little bit out there, the prosecution is going to pick up on this and squash it out. They're going to do whatever it takes to stop it before it happens. Or do I put everything out there, all of it at once, and it cannot be squashed then because it is public record at that point and there is nothing you can do?
Well, it's important. Things being public record is important. This is how we know our justice system is operating the way it should be.
Yep, honestly. Now, could that, when you have a judge, okay? Could that, when you have a judge who has been on the bench from the mid-'80s, or maybe she was still in school at the mid, I don't think. Oh yeah, an attorney.
97.
So yeah. So a judge that had been practicing law since the mid-'80s because she was an attorney and going to law school and was actually working in a law office in 81 or 1980. Did she look at this because she has been practicing law so long and that created the disgust and bias? And remember, you guys, this is the second judge over the Richard Allen case. The first judge stepped down last year. Mm-hmm. Last year in November, I think it was, Judge Benjamin Diener, and we didn't get any reason why. Judges are allowed to step down. They are absolutely allowed to do that. If they feel like they're looking at a case improperly, there's some sort of bias, they don't feel like they can be fair, that they can be just, he essentially signs Richard Allen to be moved from the jail to the prison and immediately steps down after that. Yeah. Is there something weird there? I don't know, but whatever, okay? I'm just using him as an example for why Gull could step down if there was bias there.
She could, and that would be the honorable right thing to do. If you're having bias, if you can't look at this objectively, remove your own personal feelings about the defendant or this crime, there's something wrong there. And
I think wrong, but it's wrong if you don't step down.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. If you can't look at that and be like, okay, I can't do this because I'm not looking at this objectively anymore. It's personal.
Right.
So I need to step down. If you can't do that, there's something wrong.
Yeah. I look at this and wonder, okay, because I always try and look at everything optimistically, right? I guess we'll start with the worst view, okay? That she is a bot judge and involved in this horrible, fraudulent situation some way. That's the worst case scenario. Yeah. Now, I tend to always look at things from an optimistic point of view and think, okay, maybe this is a situation of old dogs don't learn new tricks type thing. You have somebody that's been in law from 1980, and they look at this Franke's motion or the memorandum and think, what are these lawyers doing? Oh my gosh, and got so offended by this when they felt like it was their only option that she started judging unfairly.
Yeah, I almost wonder, sometimes certain types of people can kind of get on a power trip. And I wonder if that bias caused her to kind of get on a power trip. Like, all of this is not okay. I'm striking this from the record. It is not okay. I don't want it here. It shouldn't even be a part of this case. And that's really unfortunate. Like, roll with the punches, dude. Deal with it as it comes.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be stricken from the record. Like, why does it have to be...
breaking the law.
Right. Why does it have to be removed? Why?
Yep, just be a judge and judge the
Deny
case.
it or seal it. You know what I mean?
Agreed. It comes off very strange and very shady.
Dishonest. It comes off incredibly dishonest. And the thing is we the public already got this. We are requesting these documents as soon as they're dropping because we want them, because we know they're going to disappear right afterwards.
Yep.
And everyone is, from what I've seen. Sleuthy Goosey is doing it. Defense Diaries, Bob Mata is doing it.
Yep.
We're doing it. Everybody's doing it because we know. Like, they're probably going to get removed.
Absolutely.
And we want that evidence, and we got it posted everywhere. So
we do.
Despite whether or not you want to remove them, Judge Gull, the public's got them in their hands now.
Yep.
So you're not hiding anything at this point. You're just making yourself look really bad.
Yeah. Agreed.
I feel like this is almost going to become like... I don't think people want to go protest this like Karen Reed because of the tragedy of this crime with kids being involved, but it could become something like that.
It absolutely could become something like that.
And I don't think anybody wants to defend Richard Allen per se. It's defending the right to a fair trial and for us to know what happened to these little girls, to know if he's the one who's responsible for taking their lives from this world. These were really good girls.
Yeah.
They were just out there, trying to have a good time. They were exploring clearly on social media and stuff, like any little kid does, coming into their own. They were at that age where they were exploring in that way.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad.
It really is. And here's the kicker, okay? This is the end of it, the last statement here. So, what Judge Gull, the conclusion that Judge Gull came to after what we just talked about with the attorneys striking from the record and the history of the court documents, literally removing them, like I said, and luckily we were able to get them before any of that happened. Literally the day they dropped, we were able to get them. But she then goes so far to deny all media coverage, all of it.
Yeah, now that she's got her new attorneys in there that she wants.
Yep.
I find it very interesting that cameras were put in that courtroom on the day she was planning to remove them. And that's the only day she has allowed them. Is the day, because she wanted to set them up.
I know.
She literally set them up.
I know.
She put those cameras there so that they would have to step down.
Yep. She like I said,
and then she's not responsible. They stepped down. I'm not responsible. They did it on their own. I try
to be optimistic, but the more that happens here,
I kind of can't be at this point, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is just...
I hope they pursue this. I really do. I hope the attorneys pursue this.
They're not giving up. I already know they're not.
In the pursuit of justice. And look, the law is not there for judges to have their way with it. That is not what it's there for. It is there for the public, and these are public servants. So,
well, we had one commenter say, a judge is like a referee.
Yeah.
That is what they are there to do. They are there to, manage the two teams, okay, and make sure they're communicating, they're being honest, they're presenting the best evidence, they're making decisions over, what goes down. They're a referee.
Yeah.
They're not meant to be controlling them and puppeting them. And I want to know, where's McLeland? Where are you? Because your sole job is to expose the truth, is to get justice, get the truth. Right now, the only person in this entire courtroom, which the judge and the prosecutor should be the ones gunning for the truth, the defense is the only one gunning for the truth right now. And McLeland may be taking a backseat like, whoa, you know what I mean? What do I do? Yeah. Like, he may not know what move to make, but I really hope he is not on that judge's side.
I hope not.
Because that shows major issues with him and worries about him, makes me worry about him being on the case.
I agree. I just hope this doesn't turn into a case where, you have a few officers that are making really bad decisions, and now all of a sudden you have prosecutors, judges, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're putting someone's life on the line here. And what if Richard Allen is innocent? This is awful.
Yeah.
Awful, but I want to know what you guys think. And, what is Judge Gull optimistically biased? Or do you feel like Judge Gull is a fraud?
Yeah, like straight up
Yeah.
pocket judge.
Yep. Let us know.
So, we recently just had a Brian Kohberger court hearing. Okay, he was back in court, and this subject, was trying to get the grand jury indictment thrown out. They want to overturn that indictment. They didn't feel it was just. Their argument was interesting, okay? And it was all about how the grand jury was misled. They are not supposed to find just probable cause. They're actually supposed to be held to a higher standard of without a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So that's not the standard anywhere in the country. But it begs to question whether grand juries are really doing their job. I started looking into grand juries because I was like, I don't know if the grand jury process is a good thing. Like, I honestly wonder if it should not just be gotten rid of.
Yeah.
Now I've changed my mind. I don't think it should be gotten rid of. I do think there is a place for it. But I believe the original intention of grand juries, and because it was meant to be for the public, like it was meant to protect us. It was not meant to be a weapon. It is a weapon used by the prosecutor now, which is messed up because originally it was supposed to protect us from a tyrannical justice system.
Wow.
That was the purpose that was written into the Constitution, is to protect us. And it is not being used that way anymore. So I looked into that, and I'm going to get into that. But first I want to talk about, we are going to have cameras in the courtroom. Judge Gull decided that.
Judge.
Judge. Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Still thinking Delphi over here. Judge. But we're going to have cameras. And
I haven't put a decision out yet, but what I'm going to do is take control of the cameras in the courtroom. I'm not going to ban cameras in the courtroom, but I need to have more control over what the cameras are doing and what media or people who are not media are doing with the filming. I know I can only control so much, and that's why I continue to urge people to be patient and have some dignity and some restraint. And some of that I've heard or seen has been disappointing.
By the way, I really enjoyed Andrea Burkhart's, live tweeting of the hearing, because as you guys know, we don't get to see the live footage. We can only watch it after when it's not live. Shout out to her. I really enjoy her. as like a lawyer who commentates on cases and stuff like that. So one interesting thing, I'm not going to go over all of this. You can go check out her videos and her Twitter where she live tweets. But one thing that I thought was interesting is she talks about how, okay, here, I'll just read this one tweet. Logston, which is one of the attorneys on Brian's defense team, argues purpose is to make state put on its A game to grand jury. Says that didn't happen here because 6 jurors wanted to hear more until they were told the standard was probable cause.
Whoa.
The court says the instruction follows the probable cause standard, and that's how Idaho does it has been doing this for over 100 years. So apparently it's written in the Idaho state constitution. It's phrased in a way that's kind of more generic, but it does seem to lean a little bit towards without a reasonable doubt. It actually kind of does, the way it's written, but it hasn't been used that way in like 100 years. It's been probable cause. It's a standard all over the nation, which I get. And, Judge was basically like, look, I'm not the Supreme Court. I can't make this decision. I can't change something like this.
Yeah.
This has been the standard. This is how we've operated. So this is like a bit above me. But, it was creative. I enjoyed your argument. But I have to deny it.
Yeah.
I appreciate the argument. I think it's really creative. And I appreciate the journey back through history. I think it is an important factor in determining what the law is and why the law was established the way it was. I get it. I mean, what it comes down to me is that I am constrained by what I believe is settled law in Idaho. I may be wrong, but this is certainly an issue that you would have to bring up with a higher court, like the Idaho Supreme Court. I think I've had 3 or 4 district judge decisions denying the motion and the argument. So I am going to deny that argument. I think the argument is good, but I can't go that far. Not today.
And I want to say, them trying to get the indictment overturned does not dismiss the charges against Brian Kohberger.
Yeah, and that's so strange.
It can if Judge were to decide that.
Yeah.
But that would never happen.
We hear that like on every mainstream media, and even a lot of content creators think that if they get the grand jury thrown out, that the whole thing's done. That is not the case.
It would go back to a preliminary hearing, most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely.
That doesn't free him. They aren't going to be like, yeah, grand jury, here's the key, Kohberger, let yourself out. Yeah. That's not happening.
No, that would not happen whatsoever.
No.
But, so, I found that interesting. 6 jurors wanted more evidence, which we now know, after looking into grand juries a little bit, that they can interrogate witnesses. Like, they literally can go investigate this case.
They are supposed to be able to, yes.
Right.
But they weren't in this case.
No.
They were told no.
Right.
Which is insane.
It is.
Insane.
It's not right.
No.
It's not right.
No.
So, here I have a paper, which I will try to remember to link this in the description or remind Brendan to link it, but I'll cite what it's called. Grand Valley State University. It says Scholar Works at GVSU, exploring the criticisms of grand juries in the United States, written by Heather Gurink, Grand Valley State University. This is an honors project. And this is a paper that she wrote. She talks about the history of grand juries, but then she talks about the criticisms of grand juries. And it says prosecutorial dependence. One of the most common criticisms of grand juries is that they have become too dependent on prosecutors. They sit there and they're doing basically what you would do in a trial and just listen to the evidence passed to you by the prosecutor.
Yeah.
And see, here's the thing. The prosecutor is not supposed to be grandstanding.
No.
That is not at all what they're supposed to do in this case. They are not supposed to do anything based off of opinion. They are literally just supposed to, here's the evidence from the police. That is it.
Correct.
And
not
the grand
connecting
jury,
dots, not doing any of that.
No connecting dots,
Right.
nothing. They're supposed to say, here's the facts, here's the evidence we got from the investigators, and then the grand jury themselves are supposed to investigate. Mm-hmm. That is not what's happening.
No.
And then it is secret and kept from the defense, which it didn't used to be.
Yeah. I think the whole thing is messed up, in my opinion.
I agree with you. It shouldn't be this way.
Basically, okay, here's a good rundown on how it should be, okay? The prosecution is not supposed to be involved. Basically, they are just supposed to be...
They didn't used to be.
They're supposed to be the middleman handing over the discovery to the grand jury. Now, that grand jury, selected at random through jury duty, whatever, are supposed to essentially look through the caseload and or workload of the police and hold the police accountable. Now, remember, a lot of people hear the word accountable and think that it's a bad thing. No, you can hold someone accountable and they can have positive outcomes too. You are just essentially looking over what the police have done to see if you can come to the same conclusion that the police did with their own workload. That is it.
Yeah. So this paper goes on to say basically what's happening, okay, now, is they aren't looking at the evidence.
Weaponized it.
The prosecutors the court system has weaponized it, okay? And the grand jurors are no longer looking at the evidence. They are literally just handing over the indictment that the prosecutor's asking for.
Right.
It's like, okay,
It's
let's call this grand
insane.
jury meeting, and the prosecutor's
So that
like,
we can get what we want.
yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And they're like, I want this indictment for these charges, and they're like, all right, yep, cool.
It's insane. I
So-
hope that I get called to one. I would love to come with my caseload like you do in the read and be like, let me tell you, you know?
So they're supposed to be a shield for us, is what this alleges. Like,
They are
this,
a representative of the people.
right. Yep. So it says here that prosecutors, in theory, should remain neutral and give correct and unbiased legal advice to the jurors, but this is often not the reality. It also talks about how prosecutors used to not even really be a part of the grand jury process.
They shouldn't be.
No,
in my
I don't think they
opinion.
should be either.
Or if they are, the defense should always be there. It should never, ever, 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 ever be one-sided. And
I don't think it should be either.
I think there should be an opposing side there. It has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be. Otherwise, it is unfair, as we see in this situation. And again, we are not saying Kohberger is innocent. We are not saying he's guilty. We have people that watch us that believe he's innocent. We have people that watch us that believe he's guilty. We just fight for a fair justice system. That is my buy-in in this.
Yeah, so I wanted to read this part because I feel like this is a good basic. So originally these grand juries were created to protect the people from an oppressive government, creating what came to be known as the shield function, as well as being able to indict those who had committed crimes, which was thus named the sword function. Many fear that grand juries have begun to depend too much on the prosecution, meaning they have lost their shield function by no longer protecting the public from unfounded criminal claims. Some people think that it's beyond repair. Others think there are things we can do to fix it.
Sure.
Because this is it's problematic across the country, which is exactly what Brian's defense was arguing.
Yeah.
Is that, like California's done away with it. Like, this is of times of old. The way it's being used is not the way it was ever intended.
It's not justice.
It's not justice. It's basically the grand jury's just there to give a rubber stamp so they don't have to go through the process of a preliminary hearing where the defense can contradict evidence, interrogate.
Which is insane.
Like, this is your job. This is what justice is this checks and balance system where you're both going through the evidence and you're proving your case. Like, to handicap the defense is pretty messed up, in my opinion, which is what has happened in Kohberger's case.
It is.
Whether he's innocent or guilty, I don't care. I care about the justice system being correct and fair.
Yeah.
And if it is not, then how are we ever to know for sure whether he is the guy? That's my problem, is that I can never be sure if I feel like there's shadiness, because then I don't know if this guy... If investigators,
if we're convicting the criminal or not. We have no idea.
Well, it could be something like the cops got tunnel vision, so all this evidence is slanted in this way, and because we can't look at any of the rest, we don't know.
Exactly. And the thing is, too...
or there could be more people involved.
Yeah, I always go back to the town square. When our justice system was created, it was essentially a town square. It is the people judging the people, okay?
Yeah.
That is democracy. That is what we are here to do, and our justice system is democracy. A judge isn't there to make their own biased decisions. The prosecution has a job, and that is to defend and or present the state's case, the police that have arrested this individual, and then you have the defense that is there to defend this individual based on what the defendant is saying, right? And when we look at the Brian Kohberger case, we have a situation where you have the prosecution who's like, oh, hey, yeah, we're not going to give you all the evidence because I don't feel like we need to. And on top of that, we're going to convene a grand jury in secret, not let you know about it. So, hey, grand jury indictment, And by the way, also to let you know, those grand jurors that were looking for more evidence because they didn't feel like they could make a decision, we told them no. Go ahead and answer. What?
Yeah.
What? What is wrong with Idaho?
I don't know, man.
Dude!
But I have another paper here talking about it too, which is from Cornell University. And it says the grand jury acts as an investigative arm of the government. It helps the prosecutor gather evidence by calling witnesses, issuing subpoenas to compel production of documents. When acting in its investigative capacity, the grand jury has been called a sword in the hands of the prosecution in the fight against crime. But it also is supposed to shield against ill-conceived or malicious prosecutions. Like, it is this double-edged sword, essentially, fighting for the people and also fighting against criminals for the government.
Yeah.
They're like the middle people, our peers, normal citizens who can look into these things and make sure everything's running okay. Which makes me wonder, should they not be lawyers? Should they not, or have some, you know what I mean? Should they?
I mean, technically,
these are
sounds
average
like
citizens that are doing investigative work. Like, I don't know how much I trust that.
No, I don't think it should be a lawyer. I don't think it should be anyone that's bought in to the legal system. I just don't, because they're going to have ties in that legal system, and the prosecutor might be a buddy-buddy, or the defense might be a buddy-buddy or something like that. I think that either A, the prosecution and the defense should be present to explain their case, and then they're taken away, and the grand jury should be able to look over all the evidence, literally every single piece. The only piece they shouldn't get is if it puts our country in jeopardy in some way, shape, or form. Or take the prosecutor and the defense out of there and let the judge hand over the caseload, 100% of the evidence, and say, okay, grand jury, let me walk you through what you should do, okay? Everything is dated in chronological order, and this is when they found this, 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 and we need you to determine whether you think that this person could be guilty based on all this evidence.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I want it to be the people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just wonder if there shouldn't be certain qualifications. Like, you have to have finished high school or a certain... You know what I mean?
I don't think that matters if one of the two things I just said are done. Because my concern is not that they're capable investigators or that they're... Look, if you're an adult and you're brought into the jury, you are capable of making adult decisions. So either give both sides of the story, both sides of the coin here, or give no sides of the coin and let them make their decision.
But don't you think they shouldn't have, like, a criminal history? Like,
no.
You know, they shouldn't have a criminal history.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like, as, like, felons, they should,
yes.
like, be, like, at least finish normal school?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are basic minimum qualifications. Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing here is something I want to mention real quick, and then we'll move on. But, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the PCA, and ever since we talked about the 4chan theory, and this grand jury indictment, okay? And how they didn't... Basically, what we're theorizing is that they didn't want... this is the truth. This is just a fact, okay? They didn't want Bethany Funk to be... They didn't want her to testify. They didn't want her questioned.
I know.
That's why they did this.
And that's so shady.
And it's simpler, okay? It is simpler to do it this way because all the prosecution's got to do is be like, here, now give me the indictment, like, from what we're seeing.
Let me show you 30% of the case, but not the other 70%, because 30% backs my argument, this other 70 doesn't.
Honestly, from what we're hearing, that's the way I just described how grand juries work now, they just go in there to get the stamp. These 6 grand jurors were like, we need more evidence. And Bill Thompson was like, nah, give me the indictment. Yep. You have enough. Give me the indictment.
Yes.
Basically.
Yep. Gosh, I wish I was on that grand jury.
So that's really messed up.
Yeah.
But what's interesting for me is that, okay, this is done for the simplicity, so he can get this indictment and not have his evidence questioned, not have his witness questioned. And also we see in the PCA, and people have been saying, why do we not hear hardly anything about Ethan? Why?
Yeah.
Why do we not hear anything about him? Why do we not really hear as much about Xana? Like, why is it all about Kaylee and Maddie?
Yeah.
Well, I think... there is a reason for that, and it has connections to Bethany. She was the one with Xana and Ethan that night.
Yeah, at Sigma Chi. We've heard that. Yep.
They came home from what, I mean...
together, maybe?
Maybe.
Yep.
They came home. We know there was a fight there. That's being left out intentionally.
Yes, it is.
That is totally being left out intentionally. That's why we don't know much. And there's that gap of time where they were at the Sigma Chi party and then the murders. Mm-hmm. Like, there's this huge gap of time where we don't really know what they were doing.
Yeah.
All we know is that they ordered DoorDash.
Yeah.
And we're eating food. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that really interesting, and I think that's something that I wonder if the grand juries had questions about. Like, hello, like, we need to know what happened that night with these people, because if you only look at Kaylee and Maddie, Kohberger makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Xana and Ethan and what we know now, you're like, that could be a whole nother storyline.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a whole nother investigation.
Yep.
So, I mean, did they do this to squash that side of it so that couldn't be heard because it pointed to somebody else?
It's very possible. I think that's what a lot of people theorize. And, you know, if you know us, and I'm sure if you're watching you do, everything needs to be talked about. Yeah. In my opinion, everything. And by talking about everything, you either validate or invalidate things. But the only way to know is to talk about everything. And in any criminal case where you have a defendant like this, everything should be presented.
I agree.
Yeah.
But let us know what you think. should grand juries not be a thing anymore? Or should they just be reformed? Should the prosecution, be taken out of it? And the grand jury really be allowed to investigate and it be used the way it was intended originally? Let us know. Got any theories on it? I'm curious. But yeah, that's all for now. There's always more Idaho 4. We could probably talk about this like literally 24 hours a day.
Yes. All right. So we are going to do a response video here on Idaho 4. Okay, so one of the first videos that we put out when we went full-time true crime was this video here, the drug theory video, right?
Yep.
And we talked about in the beginning of this podcast about Crime Sleuthin' and how Crime Sleuthin' got this week's spotlight, and we respect and appreciate her as a content creator. Well, Crime Sleuthin' and Jules of All Trades did a live with Kara Kernodle.
A live interview, yeah.
A live interview. Interview conversation. They were kind of hanging out, just kind of going through some of those details and just what she knew and or knows about her daughter with some of the things that are going on online, some of the details and things like that. And I wanted to make a video responding to that, okay? And I hopefully everybody out there in the internet understands us by now, that I am not aggressive and I don't come sideways at people. I barely ever have shots fired at content creators. We love and respect and appreciate all content creators, and I even know there's people out there that get mad being called content creators, but let's be real here. Like, everyone putting stuff online as an artist, whether the art is the idea, whether the art is the video, whether the art is the editing, it doesn't matter.
You're creating something.
Correct, absolutely.
Yes.
And we appreciate all of that, literally all of that. So I don't think you'll ever hear me say anything bad about anything. But, okay, in this video, there were a couple statements made around drugs and or drug theory. And I saw the chat popping off. I think people are smart and people are going to come to their own conclusions. And I think a lot of people that have an interest in our channel and a lot of other channels out there have a lot of really good life experience, and everyone's experience is going to be different. But here's the reality of the situation, okay? Drugs impact all of us. Every community in the U.S. They are everywhere, okay? And one of the places that they are the most active in is in college towns and college scenes. Now, this idea where you have Steve Gonsalves coming out and saying, there aren't drugs involved, this isn't a Hollywood story, acting like it's offensive, dude. The substance statistics around college are 90% of college kids, 90% of college kids use mind-altering substances during their college stay, their college trip.
Is that excluding alcohol?
No, that's including alcohol. Including alcohol.
Wow.
But 90%, and I don't think that detail around the alcohol matters. I don't think that means anything. I bet there's more pot users than alcohol users.
That's a good point.
So, I grew up in Southern California where everyone smoked pot everywhere. It is what it is, okay?
Yeah.
And substances are no different. You have doctors, here's an interesting story, kind of sidestep here. My childhood doctor, I found out later, once I was an adult, was a drug addict. And I loved that doctor. My family loved that doctor. He did really, 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 really great work and was phenomenal with everything. Our go-to, hey, we have a problem. Okay, we'll make room. Come see us, and always took care of everything. Come to find out later, he was using that entire time.
He was a functioning addict.
He was taking his own prescriptions. They give you little, or back in the day, they used to give you opiate testers. I don't think they do anymore. But he was taking those. He was writing his own prescriptions. He ultimately ended up losing his license years down the road. Taking opiates, taking uppers, taking down. He was taking everything, okay?
Jeez.
So it affects everybody. Drugs are everywhere. What's going on, everybody? Brendan here to interrupt your normal pre-recorded Thought Riot Podcast, true crime and criminal culture showing. Now, as I was editing this video, I realized I left out some of the supporting statistics to back some of these things that we were saying. And, I had someone reach out on Reddit who was saying that most of our videos are just opinion, unsubstantiated opinion. However, I would say most of the time that we do a really good job about bringing in statistics to back any of these opinions. And actually, we try really hard to stay away from said opinions. Or if we do have an opinion, we like to back that opinion with some facts. Now, you're watching a video right now that is centered around drugs, drug theory, and some of the social opinions around that and college life, right? So I wanted to jump in here and share some of these super eye-opening statistics around said information, right? Now, what we're going to be going through here is directly from SAMHSA, drug data files, and drugfree.org statistics, completely unopinionated and unaltered statistics. Okay. Now drugfree.org, it says here, we're on a mission to transform how our nation addresses addiction by empowering families, advancing effective care, and shaping public policy on changing culture, which that's phenomenal. So I'm super stoked to be able to show you some of their statistics. It sounds like they're on a really good mission here to help people in general. Now, every year, SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, sponsors a national survey on drug use and health. They interview teenagers and young adults in high school and college to get a clear picture of the latest drug abuse in college student statistics and overall trends of drug and alcohol abuse among the nation's youth. The survey examines the percentage rates of the most commonly used drugs by college students, including non-medical use of prescription drugs, to make sure that you have a clear picture of the temptations your student may be facing at his or her university. Here are some of the key results from the latest survey available from SAMHSA. Incredible. If you have any questions, if you want to check up on our information to see if what we're saying is true, I highly suggest you reach out to any of these, drugdatafiles.com, drugfree.org, samhsa.com, and they have all the information on there. Now, I will say the SAMHSA statistics usually take a couple years to post because their files are like 130 pages. It is a super in-depth look at some of these statistics. They give you the mathematical calculations behind them and everything in between. So absolutely incredible. Shout out to those guys. If you're somebody who works with these companies, thank you so much. It is incredible having companies out there that are helping people realize that this is not a Hollywood story, okay? Let's start with high school. 75% of high school students have tried addictive substances such as nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, cocaine. 46% use addictive substances regularly, and 12% meet the clinical criteria for addiction. Now, 90% of Americans who meet the clinical criteria for addiction started using substances before the age of 18. 1 in 4 Americans who began using substances before the age of 18 have addiction. 1 in 4, 25%, compared to 1 in 25 who began at age 21 or older. Now, we move into the college statistics, okay? National survey data indicate that over 90% of full-time college students have consumed alcohol, tobacco, or illicit drugs in their college years. Over 90%, okay? Insane. National survey data indicate that over 60% of full-time college students have consumed alcohol, and a staggering 39% report engaging in binge drinking, consuming 5 or more drinks over the past month. Annual prevalence of non-medical use of Adderall in college students is over 10%, 10.9%. Than for unmatched use not enrolled in college. So what they're saying is college students actually have a higher likelihood of using these uppers than somebody who's not in college. Again, interesting. A longitudinal study of 1,253 college students found that more than 20% were exposed to opportunities for cocaine use in the past year. 20% cocaine use in the past year. That is what, 1 in 5 people? 1 in 5 people. So according to National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 20% of full-time students reported using marijuana in just the past month, okay? So keep this in mind here, you guys. Okay, all right, if we're talking about 6 people in a house that night at 1122, 90% would equal to 5 out of 6 people were and or have used substances within the past college stay, okay? Now, that's only for the likelihood of who would have or could have used. It doesn't go into the likelihood of them using and being around sorority and fraternity life. So another interesting stat here around SAMHSA, and this goes into an article they have posted, A Day in the Life of College Students aged 18 to 22 Substance Use Facts. More than 1/3 of full-time college students age 18 to 22 engaged in binge drinking in the past month alone. 1 in 5 used an illicit drug in the past month, and 1 in 4 students have sold or transport have passed hands from one person to another as a drug dealer. Okay, that's the easiest way I can put it. I understand that there's some gray area around that. I get it. I understand that they don't necessarily have to be this dude on the corner that, hey, you need a dime sack. You know what I mean? I understand that they could just be, oh yeah, I'll get that to so and so. Bam, you know. But 1 in 4 college students are selling drugs in some way, shape, or form, according to these national statistics around SAMHSA. Not opinion, guys. Now, isn't that interesting? One more interesting fact, and I'll let you get back to your normal broadcast here. So, assault is a significant problem on college campuses. Alcohol and other drug use is a strong predictor of an increased risk of committing and experiencing assault among college students. Unfortunately, listen to this, unfortunately, being involved in Greek life, binge drinking, and drug use are added risk factors for experiencing an assault in college. What? Wild. Members of fraternities and sororities have some of the highest rates of substance abuse on college campuses. Compared with non-members, fraternity and sorority members are more likely to use alcohol and other illegal drugs, as well as binge drink more frequently and smoke cigarettes more frequently than other college students. Members also suffer from more negative consequences from substance abuse compared with non-members, including a higher prevalence of driving under the influence, being physically injured, physically injuring somebody else, experiencing memory loss, and having unprotected sex. Males who live in fraternity houses during college not only have a heightened risk of binge drinking, but are also at a higher risk of an alcohol or drug use dependence later in life. 45% reported symptoms that meet this criteria. Living in a fraternity or sorority house is also associated with a higher prevalence of cigarette smoking. Students who engage in substance use behaviors during high school are more likely to join fraternities and sororities when they enter college. Male students demonstrate a greater increase in alcohol use after pledging into fraternities compared to non-members. Male students demonstrate a greater risk in illegal drug use after pledging into fraternities compared to non-members. Members who are more actively involved or who have taken leadership positions are also more likely to hold positive thoughts towards alcohol use and illegal drug use, including the facilitation of bonding between brothers, having fun, and enhancing sexual appeal. Not surprisingly, students who later disaffiliate with Greek life demonstrate a decrease in heavy drinking and drug use related consequences. Boom. It is not a Hollywood story in any way, shape, or form.
And if he meant cartels are a Hollywood story, like that they kill people or that gangs kill people that deal drugs, that is not a Hollywood story either.
Yeah, it's not. I just want to be careful bringing up that word cartel, though, because I think a lot of people watched our drug theory video and thought we were trying to say a cartel, a drug cartel that has so much money, they put it on an 18-wheel truck to weigh it, came and targeted 4 college students. Get out of here. That is not what we were suggesting whatsoever. When we brought up cartel details, we were talking about cartel because other crime follows cartel, not there's cartel involvement in that house or even in that city. It's that gangs follow where cartel go.
Right.
Mid-level users and criminals follow where those gangs go that follow cartels.
Because the cartel supplies everybody.
Correct.
They are the supply chain.
Absolutely.
They are the supply chain. That is the only reason they are important.
Absolutely.
I do not believe this was a cartel hit. And no, that's not what we meant at all.
No.
I'm just saying that whole trade, okay, that whole black market, that whole business is very real. It's not a Hollywood story whatsoever.
It is not. Growing up in Southern California, you know how many times I woke up with the news saying, hey, on the 10 freeway, we have 4 human heads that have been thrown out of a driving car. I promise you, it's not Hollywood.
Monterey, it was a woman hanging from a bridge with a sign on her.
Yep, absolutely. But, okay, now going into this video, and again, I feel like I prefaced it enough here that I'm not coming sideways at Xana's mother, Kara. And if Kara, if you're watching, please reach out to us here because there are questions. I didn't want to try to hop on there or steal any shine from what they had going on. They had a specific direction they wanted to go. But look, it's wrong to think that there couldn't be drug involvement in this crime. I think that if anyone out there is looking at this crime and saying that there is no way there could be drugs involved. I have a 90% statistic that says otherwise, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just play fair here and cut that in half, okay? You have a house that had 6 people there. 45% of people are involved with drugs in some way. If I cut that 90% statistic in half, that would still leave 2.5 people that would be involved in drugs in that house. So it's not out there.
So
now
it's more unlikely that there
is no drugs there. Yes,
right.
correct. And
Yeah.
I brought evidence with me too, and I'll put them up on the screen as we're going through it here. But there was a recent bust here in 2020 that focused specifically on fraternities and sororities. It involved 4 colleges. It involved multiple fraternities, and these fraternities were moving drugs through these colleges. Now, interesting that you also have people in that house that were part of fraternities, part of sororities, right? The drug theory is a video that we put out, and just because we put out a theory doesn't necessarily mean we believe that, but it means that it needs to be talked about, because everything needs to be talked about. Now, we also put out the 4chan theory recently as well. And you know what's interesting that I think are going over people's heads is supposedly that fight that happened at Sigma Chi was such a big deal because they were calling that guy out for using illegal drugs. Steroids are illegal drugs.
Yeah.
Even in that theory, it's there. So
Yeah.
when Kara came out on there and tried to make it seem like, look, these were good kids, okay? They had jobs. They were going to school.
They were good kids.
They weren't dealing out of that house. Look, it's more unlikely there wasn't active drug involvement going on in that house than there was.
I want to say something that's personal experience real quick, okay? I used to buy the best pot from an Ivy League student, okay? An Ivy League student who was a really good kid. Is who I used to go buy some of the best pot from. Literally Ivy League.
Yep, I know.
So no. Just no. And it wasn't only pot sometimes, too.
Yep.
So, come on.
Yep.
He was a really good kid.
I think that somebody could have been involved in dealing in that house, and that doesn't mean they're a bad kid.
Dude,
we don't have any bias. Now, I will be fair in this regard that America hates drug addicts. They absolutely despise them. In general, America hates drug addicts, and that is a major problem.
It's a flaw.
And it is a major problem that for us that we see that because drug addiction is nothing to be hated, okay? Drug addiction just happens to be an addiction which most people are affected by addictions. This one, it just has brought so much harm to communities that people have a bad taste in their mouth around it. And addiction itself is a mental health issue.
These people need help.
It's an illness, okay? And somebody that's addicted to drugs is not any less than any other person out there.
No.
But for Kara to come out and make it seem like that's not possible, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It's not possible. It shouldn't be considered. That is not possible that a drug aspect should not be looked into in this crime. 90% stat that says otherwise. Now, I think one of the big things that was missed in our drug theory video, and again, these are public records, you guys, public records. So, were the charges, right? The parents' charges, and wondering if there could be some kind of connection because of flipping or something like that. You know, Kara, which, and again, I have my own past, you guys. I'm not putting Kara down here.
No.
I have my own past. I just choose to put some of that information behind a paywall. But so we had 2 felonies that happened earlier in the year, right? That we talked about on the drug theory video, which would have put Kara at the 3 felony mark, which makes you applicable to be put away for life if that's what is decided in court. Both of these charges were reduced, and there was also Corey Hadrock, too, that we talked about in that video, that actually had 3 charges here, 2 felonies and a misdemeanor, and both of theirs in mid-September. One was September 7th, one was September 13th. Those charges were reduced due to a plea deal that you can see online. You can search it and find it yourself online, right? Well, that same week that the crime happened, those charges that were taken off were reapplied. They were reapplied after taking them off.
Right.
That is the big question there. So, you know, if there's some way out there that Kara wants to explain this, like, how did that happen? Because to me and my experience, that feels like red flag. I have questions, you know what I mean? Especially when you have someone that's a family member that unfortunately was ended.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean we believe that is what happened. It's just a question.
Just a question.
Just a question.
Yep.
We're not implying anything that we believe any certain thing. It's just a red flag.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even if there was, I look at this situation, and even if there was some reason, some connection like that, dude, there would be no fault on her. There'd be no fault on her.
No.
Murderers are murderers, and there is no person out there that would ever be to blame for what somebody would conduct against another person in that way, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's a heinous act, and the reason why we even talk about these theories, the drug theory, the 4chan theory, any of these theories, is because we care about it, because we see an injustice, because we see a problem in our society, because we see a crime with 4 people that should have never, ever, ever, ever happened, and the only way to get some sort of justice from this is to be able to find the right person and hold them accountable, or persons, and hold them accountable. So, I'm curious what you guys think, though, and I wanted to highlight those charges because I feel like a lot of people missed that in our drug theory video. They didn't make the connection that all those felonies were dropped. They were taken off, but then they were reapplied. That is a big deal.
Yeah.
When looking at that possibility.
Yeah, it's just like there's other people who we know for a fact, dealing in that area who had their charges dropped. But guess what? They weren't ever reapplied.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that happens why? Well, you tell me. Why would somebody's charges from a pretty bad crime,
felony charges,
be removed?
Yeah, there were a lot of people who responded in the comments saying, well, this happens every day. This happens. I mean, it doesn't just happen every day. Normally, there is there's sort of reasons behind it with conditions, or if you're a first-time offender, you can go to drug court, drug counseling, a drug rehab. But all those options expire the more it happens. Next time, they will not be so lenient. Next time, even less likely they're going to be lenient. Next time, you better get on your knees and start praying. Type of lenient. You know what I mean? And when 4 people are ended, we're going to ask every question because we care.
Yeah.
Because it matters to us. And, we might be doing a secondary video on this from another drug theory point of view. But we want to know what you think here.
Yep.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, tomorrow we are interviewing somebody who survived a serial killer abduction. Somebody who tried to take them as a child. Huntington Beach, back when he was active, in the, I think it's 70s, right? Yeah, pretty sure it's 70s. So to prepare for that, to have you guys, the viewer, be able to follow along, understand who this guy is, and be able to make those connections with us throughout the interview, I'm going to do a quick rundown on who the dating game serial killer is, a.k.a. Rodney Alcala. Now, he was born in 1943 in San Antonio, Texas. His father had moved the family to Mexico when he was 8 years old, and then 3 years later abandoned them. And then his mother moved him and his sister to Los Angeles, which is in and around the area that he killed people once he was older. So, at the age of 17, he was in the Army as a clerk, had a nervous breakdown, was discharged due to mental health issues. He was intelligent, had an IQ of 135, and went to UCLA, but he eventually quit and went on to be a serial killer. He was
oddly like Ted Bundy,
a photographer who was really, I don't know, he was apparently pretty charming too, like Ted Bundy, which is why he's called the dating game killer. Because,
I heard that he was a weirdo.
Well, he is, but it's really strange because on the show, he wins the girl. On the dating game, it was September 13th, 1978 when he was on this show. And he was already fully in his killing spree. Like,
yeah,
he was
crazy.
Going. And he was charming on this show. It's really weird. So, I don't know, but once this woman, Cheryl Bradshaw, who picked him, the Bachelorette that picked him, talked to him backstage, she said she started to feel sick, that he was acting really creepy, and I turned down his offer. I didn't want to see him again.
Saved her life, probably. Gosh.
Yes, it probably did. It very much probably did, because he wanted to take her on a date afterwards, and we may have never heard from her again if she didn't get that feeling and say no.
From Hollywood, the dating capital of the world, it's The Dating Game. Here's the star of our show, and your host, Jim Lyons.
Hey! Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And welcome to The Dating Game. And we'll get right underway. It's time to meet our first three eligible bachelors for game number one. And here they are. Good luck, gentlemen. Well, let's see. Bachelor number one is a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome. And it's time to meet our young lady for game number one, and here she is. Here is a young lady with a wealth of experience. She once earned a living massaging feet, but she quit when her boss suggested that she work her way up. Then she taught school in Phoenix, Arizona, and now she's here to educate our three bachelors in the art of amour. Welcome, if you will, sensational Cheryl Bradshaw. Hello, Cheryl. Don't sit down yet. Just a minute. Want to make sure everything is straight. You relaxed? You feel okay? All right. You know there are three bachelors over there. There'll be 1, 2, and 3. Ask them anything you like to find out more about them, except their name, age, occupation, or income, okay? And we're going to start by having them say hello to you and see how they sound. Number one, would you say hello to Cheryl, please?
We're going to have a great time together, Cheryl.
Okay. And here we go.
Bachelor number one.
Yes?
What's your best time?
The best time is at nighttime,
Why do you say that?
because that's the only time there is.
The only time? What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good. Then you're really ready.
I'm a drama teacher, and I'm going to audition each of you for my private class. Bachelor number 1.
You're a dirty old man.
Take it.
Come on, over here.
Oh, honey, we ought to go out and boogie.
Really?
Bachelor number 1. I am serving you for dinner.
Oh.
What are you called, and what do you look like?
I'm called the banana, and I look really good.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
Peel me.
Later, Bachelor 1, later.
Welcome back to the dating game, and Cheryl, we have reached the moment of truth, as we call it. You've heard from the bachelors, you got some great dramatic presentations, some good answers, but now I'm going to ask you a question. Will that date be bachelor number 1, bachelor number 2, or bachelor number 3? Who gets the dates?
Well, I like bananas, so I'll take 1.
Number 1, bachelor number 1, all right. Well, there they go. However, you did leave one remaining, and this is your date, and I want to tell you something about him, Cheryl. He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with the one answer. Well, as far as I can see, Cheryl and Rodney, it looks like the two of you may be involved in some sort of racket, so we're going to have you take to the court. Oh, first you'll receive tennis lessons from expert Naomi Besa of the famous Kirkwood Tennis Club. That starts. And you'll soon be acing everyone off the courts. And to make sure you both look as professional as you'll become, complete tennis outfits will be provided by Bill Darling's Tennis Shop. It'll really make you look like part of the racket set. Then it's off the Magic Mountain, one of America's greatest and most complete amusement parks, with plenty of excitement to challenge any daring dater, like the Revolution that'll help you turn the town upside down, and of course the world's greatest roller coaster, the Colossus. Magic Mountain, just a half an hour north of Hollywood, California. So have fun playing tennis. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. Okay. You can go relax, meet each other, say hello, get acquainted, and they'll be back. And before we begin our next game, let's find out what runners-up will receive today from Johnny Jacobs.
He's a really, really gross serial killer, okay? So his signatures, he had a style. He would beat, bite, sexually assault, strangle, to the point of unconsciousness, and then let them wake back up and do it again. And do it again until he decided to end them. So he did have, there's an escalation with him too. Sure. He attempted, and with an 8-year-old girl first, that we know of, because he could be anywhere from like 50 to 100, according to him. Yeah. But we only have official numbers of 8 that we know of that were actually ended, but there are attempts too.
That's similar to Bundy also, where they only have 20 confirmed that they've been able to verify, but they think his number's over 100.
Yeah, that's what they think with this guy too. But his first was Tali Shapiro, an 8-year-old girl he lured into his Hollywood apartment in 1968. And that's one thing that he did, is he would lure them to his apartment to take pictures of them. Remember I said he was a photographer. And I believe that's actually what he went to school for at UCLA. Wow. Okay. Was some kind of creative type art degree. But yeah, he would lure them to take pictures of them. I'm not sure if that's exactly what he did. I'm not sure if that's what he actually did with Talia because it doesn't say here. But so he does his MO to her, okay? Assaults her, beats her and stuff. A passerby actually tipped off the police and he ran. He fled his apartment, okay? She was in his apartment and
I remember
police
this story.
got called. And he runs and remains a fugitive for years.
Yeah,
Moves to New York. And he forms a false identity of John Berger. Enrolls in a film school at New York University where he studied under Roman Polanski.
So, yeah, I did know that. Going back to when he fled his apartment, though, it's a super interesting story. And I might put a snip in here, but the police officer that approached the door, he took off. The police officer had a split second to decide, am I going to chase him or do I think someone's in there? And he said just by luck. He had no idea if the girl was still alive, anything. He was like, you know, on most days I probably would have ran after him to stop him, but I just had a feeling I needed to go in the apartment, and the cop saved that girl's life.
Yeah.
If he would have chose to go chase him, she would have had no more time left because she was hooked up to a device that was like had her arms spread apart and pressure on her throat where she couldn't breathe. And the only reason she's alive is because that cop had a feeling to let him go and check on her. I know.
So, he was then recognized from an FBI poster, and he was arrested for assaulting and attempted murder of Talia. He was arrested in 1971, but he was only sent to prison on charges of assault. Her family, Talia's family, kept her from testifying. So he ended up only spending 3 years behind bars.
I know. Gosh.
And he soon spent another 2 years for assaulting a 13-year-old girl.
The guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Literally a horrible, disgusting person.
Then the authorities let him visit relatives in New York, and they believe within the 7 days of his arrival there, he killed a college student named Elaine Hover, I think, who was the daughter of a popular Hollywood nightclub
owner. Yeah.
Yeah. Nightclub owner, yes. But then he got a job at Los Angeles Times as a typesetter. Under his real name.
I know.
I don't understand this. Like, I guess it's the 70s, and that's why. Everything, they didn't have computers.
Yep. It's not like they could be, we have this new applicant. Let me just... Oh, no. This guy, you know what I mean? For a lot of jobs, they probably didn't want to pay the money to have a full background, like FBI background check, and people probably slipped through the cracks quite a bit.
Yeah.
Really.
This guy, though, I mean, he...
is a monster?
He's a monster, yes.
And what's really weird is I feel like I'm pretty good about getting in the heads of these guys, and while they're all sick, I don't understand that part. What I mean by getting in their heads is understanding like how the dots connected to make them so disgusting, to make them so inhuman, to make them like, I understand why they went to that dark place normally from looking at their past. For whatever reason with this guy, every time that I've looked into him, it is just such a disgusting, gross sexual element where he's focusing on kids and not even just in a disgusting way, but like in the way he abuses, the way he would choke them and bring them back, and just that torture element. It is so disgusting, so grotesque and horrible. And to think that he got away with it after being in jail, after going to prison for multiple years and coming back out and picking up where he left off, and even worse, dude.
I know.
It's a horrible story.
Yeah. It really is. And, you know, one part when he's on the dating game, she asked him what the best time of day is, and he said the best time's at night, which I found really interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, which one is this? I want to talk about how he got caught. Okay. So, the year after his appearance on the dating game, there was a 17-year-old who walked away unscathed from a photo shoot, and she remarked how he showed her his portfolio, which in addition to shots of women included spread after spread of naked teenage boys. Which, is that an element we're not looking at? Did he do this to boys too?
We don't know. What's interesting, just because I know a little bit about this guy, is, you know, during this time, I don't know why, but there were so many victims that were thrown on hillsides with, like, years later you have the hillside strangler and things like that.
Well, they thought he was possibly him.
I know.
But it ended up being somebody else.
For whatever reason, you have this whole bunch of serial enders.
Yeah, Gacy that was active at this time.
That drop their victims off on hillsides. Like, why that is it just because it's convenient to drive and, like, open the door? I don't understand, but he's one of them that was adding to that hillside element, and maybe it's just because of how California's set up. I don't know, but
really
I know that he dropped multiple victims on hillsides like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really strange.
But I think the Hillside Strangler had a more specific MO where Alcala didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, police eventually released his portfolio to help people identify, like,
missing
people that could be his victims. So, 12-year-old Robin Samso is the victim that would finally break his killing spree and get him put in prison for the rest of his life. So this was Huntington Beach, California. She was riding her bike on her way to ballet class, June 20th, 1979. Why is my voice sounding like that? So weird. Did you hear that? So, yeah, June 20th, 1979. So, her friend said a stranger approached him on the beach and asked if they wanted to do a photo shoot. They declined, but Samso left, borrowing a friend's bike to quickly get to her ballet class. At some point between then, she disappears. Nearly 12 days later, a park ranger found her bones, which had been ravaged by animals in a forested area near Pasadena foothills. So they drew up a composite sketch of him after interviewing the friends. The police interviewed her friends, and there was a connection to Alcala from his former parole officer. Saw the sketch and was like, "Oh, that's him," and told the police. They see his criminal record, and they also find Samso's earrings in a Seattle storage locker, and that made them confident. So he goes to trial. He gets convicted.
Let me just put one thing in there, because where the person that we're going to be interviewing that got away from them, there is a story that he gave, okay, that I believe that is the time frame that it happened, because he first made an attempt on this girl and it was unsuccessful. Somebody knew something. Her friends saw something. Something made him not be able to. I'll have to triple check those details. But he left, okay, because he was called out by one of their moms or friends or something like that. And I believe he went and made an attempt on somebody else, and that is that person we're talking to. And then when that was unsuccessful, he went back to his original person, and that's where he got her. Yeah.
Super sketch.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, in the interview, we'll pan out those details. But yeah, it would have been this time frame, 1979, around this area, when it was really warm outside, like June, summertime. So he was found guilty of first-degree murder and received the death penalty. But then the California Supreme Court overturned this verdict due to the jury being prejudiced. They felt by learning about his past crimes that it wasn't valid, and they put him back on trial. I know, it's so stupid. And then at the second trial in 1986, another jury sentenced him to death. This one didn't stick either. A Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned it in 2001, in part because the second trial judge did not allow a witness to back up the defense's claim that the park ranger who found the girl's body in the mountains had been hypnotized by police investigators. What? This is just so ridiculous. So then 2010, 31 years after the murder, a third trial was held. Just before the trial, Orange County Senior Deputy District Attorney Matt Murphy told LA Weekly the 70s in California was insane as far as treatment of sexual predators. Rodney Alcala is a poster boy for this. It is a total comedy of outrageous stupidity. So, you know, eventually, like, science catches up.
Yeah.
They get DNA.
Great.
You know, there's swabs done. It's connected. During the 2010 trial, it says that the jurors were in for a bizarre ride because he acted as his own attorney. Asked himself questions, referring to himself as Mr. Alcala in a deep voice, which then he would answer.
I know.
He would answer his own questions. What the heck?
He was off his rocker. For real.
Dude, what?
I know. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, so so now, after 31 years after the murder, though, they had concrete evidence on 4 different murders from decades past, thanks to DNA swabs. Yeah.
Good, because he was a terror.
Then they combined all of these murders into the trial in 2010.
He was a terror focused on children.
You know the question and answer, him asking himself questions in that weird voice and then answering? The court had to endure that for 5 hours. They sat there for 5 hours while he was like, Mr. Alcala, where were you on this day? And he was like, well, I was here. What? Are you kidding me? And they acted like the 70s was a joke. Like, that still sounds like a joke.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
At least they got, you know, he used an Arlo Guthrie song as his closing argument.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He apparently doesn't remember killing the other women. It sounded like a crap show, to be honest. So, I mean, he was convicted, he was sentenced to life. Now, well, actually, he was sentenced to death, actually. My bad. He got the DP. But while he was sitting on death row in California, he died at the age of 77 of natural causes, July 24th, 2021.
Yeah.
So he's gone. He's gone now.
Rightfully so.
Yep. I just can't believe how this guy went all that time getting arrested, getting caught, and then like getting back out.
You know how many
and
times
doing it
we've
more
seen
and more
this?
and more.
Almost every serial ender had this happen. I mean, Ted Bundy, it happened multiple times where police had him and let him out, and then he also escaped. It also happened with Gacy in the beginning, where he was doubted and they didn't believe that he did it or whatever, and he ended up getting more under his belt. It also happened with Nathaniel Barjona, where he was convicted and let out multiple times because you got to remember, serial enders are the opposite of what your average human is, the average person. So I don't think that most people go to, oh, this is a serial ender that isn't a human being, that their only goal is to hurt people, you know?
And think about this. Say Bryan Kohberger is a serial killer. Say this was his first or something like that.
The history doesn't show it, but yeah,
gotcha. Okay, right, I agree with you. But say it is.
Uncommon, yeah.
Say that the prosecution and investigators are really botched this, and he gets off on it. And then he goes and kills more people.
I know.
Like this man, like most serial killers.
That's my concern too, and that's why it's funny when you have people that come on our channel and troll and, oh, these are another content creator that's just fighting for Bryan Kohberger's innocence, when no, if he's guilty, please do your job and get good evidence showing he's guilty.
Right.
Come on.
Do it well. Don't be shady.
Yeah.
But, I mean, because, dude, this guy, he got stuff overturned so many times. Yeah, this shouldn't be happening. This should not be happening.
Never.
Especially with DNA, especially with all the forensic sciences we have now. We should be able to do it right.
I agree.
Yeah. But, yeah, they really have no idea how many people this man truly killed. Between these two victims I talk about, the first one who, survived and the last one who sadly did not. And they were also some of his youngest victims, 8, 13, I think it was, or 12 maybe. Also, there were 20-year-olds in there too. There was a ton of different ages, but all of them were like pretty much under 30 always.
Yeah.
There was no 30 and up. It was always under 30. Always. Mostly lower 20s and then teenage.
And some children, not teenage. There's an 8-year-old that was attempted.
And there was multiple 8-year-olds.
I know.
So yes, children. But he kept it. Yeah, he kept it young, and it's gross. And the person we're going to interview, they were the same age as Samso, the last girl who passed away. Same age, actually, and looked. There's a lot of similarities.
Yes,
it's in Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
They had similar hairstyles. They were both dancers. Mm-hmm. Both out walking alone or riding their bikes alone. Mm-hmm. And he was hunting there at this time.
I know. Yep.
So, I mean, I'm really excited to do it. I think that it's going to be really interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, that's a rundown of Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. Hopefully you'll insert a clip of that dating game show, because it's really weird. It's really strange.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, keep an eye out for the interview coming soon.
Yes. All right, so Shari Franke is speaking out again. So, for those of you that don't know, Shari Franke is the oldest daughter of Ruby Franke and Kevin Franke of 8 Passengers, Connections, whatnot. And she's come out speaking about how hard it's been. And I wanted to touch on this because we talked about Kevin Franke's nephew that had spoke out about this and how he actually had said that, Kevin Franke should be held accountable, probably behind bars. Ruby Franke definitely should be behind bars, and I don't know if she should be out again. What's interesting is to see this evolution with Shari Franke. It's strange. It's strange. I feel like there is a lawyer element going on here because do you remember that original post that she made? Hang on one second here, and I will...
Original what post? Lawyer? Are you talking about the arrest?
Okay, so the original post that there were two main ones that people were concerned with. Okay, so she was the one that put arrested finally, right? Mm-hmm. And then what the next we heard was that Kevin was coming out saying, "Hey, why isn't Shari arrested for breaking in our house and taking a bunch of things?" Do you remember that? Where their house was broken into? Yeah. That was Shari. Well, she went in there and got all their electronics, computers, IDs, passports, phones, any electronics she could find, loaded them in her car, and took off. And then Kevin comes out saying, "Oh, it was a misunderstanding. She was actually just getting that for safety measures," which red flag. I feel like that's really, really strange. For one, I'm blown away, okay? I feel like that shows the level of unhealthy relationship that he would come out at all and be like, "Hey, why is she not arrested? Like that's your father, and you want your daughter arrested for going in your house?" Weird, right?
Well,
Super
he's saying
weird.
she stole things.
Yeah, and the disconnect is, why are you not on the phone asking her? Why are you making a statement saying, "Why isn't Shari arrested?" That's weird. That's super strange that you have a father and a daughter, and instead of reaching out and finding out why she went in the house, he comes out and says, "Hey, why isn't she arrested?" Yeah, a normal relationship is you just call her. Why were you here? What's going on?
Yeah, for sure. Should be your first step always.
Then she comes out and says, "I know that there are many rumors circulating online about my family. While it is true, I am not in contact with my immediate family and don't support the extreme beliefs of connections. Please remember that this is my real family. Despite good intentions, speculating, rumors, and gossip doesn't help us. I'd like to ask for privacy for me and my family as we work through this very difficult situation. Please know that many are working on this situation, and I hope one day that we can be whole again. Please respect my privacy as I work through my own healing as well." Okay, so next we see her with Kevin going to court. Weird, right?
Oh, that is weird.
That's what I'm saying. I think that is really strange. She hasn't been in connection with them this whole time. She went to school, and Ruby and Kevin essentially cut her off. They literally stole her college fund from her account, and they talked about that. So that is confirmed. What? They had like 30 grand or 70 grand, something like that, in an account for her to go to college. And when she was leaving the house, they removed that.
What?
Yes.
That's horrible.
I agree. She cut off them.
Because these kids worked. Like,
agreed.
They were on camera, like, every day.
I agree.
Like, they deserve something from that.
I agree. I think it is a disgusting situation, and that's why I keep going back to, personally, there has to be lawyer involvement here.
Yeah.
There has to be lawyer involvement here.
Yeah.
But The next we see is her going on to, she goes on to a podcast, Into the Light, and talks about her experience in the family, and she talks about how her experience at school has changed it, how she was super judgmental when she first went to school, and she said that, you know, she'd be walking down the hall and see other students and stuff, and she remembered thinking like, oh my God, I can't believe, what are they wearing? They're going to hell because of that.
Oh, gosh.
For real. Literally, that's her own words out of her mouth. And then she started questioning things. And like, wait, so the God I believe in is forgiving and accepting and all these things, right? Then she talked about how she would go home and it would just drain the life out of her being at home with the judgment and expectations and all this stuff. And she started seeing the problems there and started realizing, whoa, the level of accountability and things that are being done at my own house is not okay. And that essentially created a division between them, and she had not been talking to them anymore, like connection cut, okay?
Yeah.
And then we see her with the arrest and everything. She goes and gets those things. Kevin says, hey, why aren't you arresting her? And then all of a sudden she's with Kevin at court.
I wonder why.
I agree. I wonder why. I agree. I wonder why. I agree. I think any money that was made from YouTube, man, they need to split it up even at best, honestly.
Yeah.
What they should do is 8 passengers, right? You split all the income up into 8. They were equal parts of this.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, is Kevin supporting Ruby at all? Has he said anything in support of her?
I mean, his lawyer has come out and said that he wants their family whole again.
Right. He wants their family whole again.
That's supporting her.
Yeah.
That is supporting her.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
Don't think she should ever be let out of prison. Me personally, I think this was too far. I think that anybody that is safe and a normal member of society would never, ever even come close to, with a 10-foot pole, anything that was going on in Jody's house. At her discretion too, you know, but it's interesting to see some of these other family members, and honestly, I feel like Shari was doing the right thing by getting away from them. It kind of sucks, in my opinion, to see her back with Kevin trying to like create some wholesome picture again, but you got to remember that's her mom, so there is a level of emotional connection and bond there that nobody will understand.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
I wonder if they've been working on her, like Kevin and Ruby have been working on her.
That's what I wonder.
Tried to manipulate her or get her on their side.
That's what I wonder.
I don't know. You just don't know. Like,
are you really going to let your mom go away for life?
Yeah.
For her whole life?
Literally life. Yeah.
Because each of those charges can carry a 15-year sentence. 15 times 6, you're looking at like 100 years, right? Isn't that? So, what, 30, 30, and 30? So 90 years. 90 years.
Basically 100 years. That's a life sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. A life sentence. So I'm just curious, and I hope that's not what's going on here. I really hope so. I think that it is very eye-opening and shows a lot that she separated herself from that family because of the sickness we saw there. She went to school. It looked like her eyes started opening, and she started making progress, you know?
Yeah, she did.
And there's a more recent one that came out from her, and she has not spoken much. So, and this is depressing, but she says there's literally not even words to describe how upside down my life has become. I've cried, had an infinite number of panic attacks, had way too much ice cream, and yet life goes on.
Too much ice
Therapy
cream.
has literally saved me, but God has too. My life is somehow becoming more beautiful and fulfilling despite all the terrible things going on. I've tried to live my life to the fullest in the last few weeks, even though all I want to do is hide away in my apartment. I do have my days. Tomorrow is another big court day, and I'd appreciate your prayers and thoughts for my family and myself. Words can't express the gratitude I feel for you all, and I feel your love.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's also kind of positive at the same time. Like,
yeah, but why is she connected to them? I don't see any positive here. I think that she was doing the positive thing by not being attached to them whatsoever. Yeah. I think it's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an issue too. I mean, parents are just really, like, it's your parent.
Yeah.
And while she probably wanted the abuse to stop, wanted them to be held accountable, the prospect of your mother being locked away for the rest of her life may be too much for her. I don't know. Maybe she feels like it's overkill or something. Or she's just supporting her dad and not her mom. I don't know.
I mean,
it's still her parents.
A monster.
At the end of the day, it's still her parents, and there's a lot of kids who would still, go visit their parents in jail, even if their parents did something.
I get it.
Super egregious like this.
It just makes me nervous for her, is all I'm getting at, because everything that is going on with her mom is just disgusting. It's horrible, and I think that she needs to be convicted of those. I also think that her dad needs to be charged, unfortunately, and I do feel like she would be in a much healthier place not being a part of that situation. But
yeah,
I'm more curious what you guys think. That's the most important thing here. Let me know how you feel about it, and do you think that she should be helping her family out, or should she be 10,000 miles away? Let me know.
Yeah, I don't personally know. That's a hard one. And it kind of depends on, like, what's going on within the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because her siblings are the ones who really need the support, not her parents.
Yeah.
They're full-grown adults.
Yeah. But let us know.
Yep.
And that is the show tonight. We are done. Make sure you check out all the podcast things. Hit that like button. Leave us some comments. Let your thoughts riot. Check out the True Crime Talk Show on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, all the different podcast platforms. Check out the Thought Riot Podcast and leave us your ratings, comments, stars, likes, thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or any of the thumbs.
Any of the thumbs?
Yes.
Did you say check out the True Crime Talk Show?
Yep. All of the thumbs. But yeah, we appreciate all of you. Yes, you. And come hang out next time.
But not you. Yes, all of you.
Only you, not you. Yes. And come check us out next time.
Yep.
See you later.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.